Edmond, this entire book, or more accurately, the Count of Monte Cristo, the kids would say he aura farmed nowadays.
This is just a great lesson of how to write dynamic, interesting characters.
If I was a character first reader, I'd probably rate this book overall higher. What name? Fernand, Danglars.
No, brain fart.
Villefort.
No.
Monte Cristo.
The more embarrassing
Lord Austin.
name. The more
Lord Lee.
embarrassing.
Saint Richard.
No.
Edmond. Marseille.
Emperor of France.
Oh, Napoleon?
Napoleon, thank you.
Oh my God!
Welcome everyone to the Tudor Realm podcast. My name is Richard.
My name is Austin. Count Austin. Count Austin. I'm going by Count Austin today.
The Count Austin. Yeah, I don't know if I maybe you can be a Lord Austin.
I bought a small square footage of your apartment, so I can technically be called Count. Is that how? No, it's not how it works at all. Nope.
Didn't I buy Did
Yes.
I buy you a piece of land?
I am technically a lord. Thank you for that.
Technically, you
for my
are a
birthday,
lord.
you got me a small plot of land somewhere in Bucktooth, nowhere, England, and I'm technically a lord, so I will be going by that.
There you go.
Well, what are we doing today, Rich?
We're doing the Count of Monte Cristo,
Yep.
a classic, a big chunker of a book. We read the unabridged version, not your abridged sissy version. Which, by the way, then I've read the unabridged version. Next reread will be the abridged.
This is going to be spoiler free for the first 15 minutes, and then we'll get into spoilers. Yeah, we've read the Monte Cristo. It's a classic that came out in 1846 officially. However, this book was released in a serialized version, so it came out basically in your out in your weekly paper in the French newspaper called Le Journal des Débats. I'm not saying that correctly, but it came out from 1844 through 1846, and you could imagine this was the contemporary French soap opera. Everyone going, ooh, when's the next Monte Cristo chapter or section coming out? And you can kind of put yourself into that mindset and then take you today, what, 150 years, over 150 years later? Wow. Just to give you some time frame, this came out 20 years before the American Civil War, just to put you in that. And the book itself takes place from the time period of 1814, I believe, Napoleonic era, all the way through 1839. I want to make sure, yes, 1815 through 1839. So it spans that time frame. It is a fiction book that takes place, but also real events that actually happened in the real world occurred during the time that Alexandre Dumas, the author, is writing this.
Great summary. Over the general setting.
Yes.
God, I feel like it's really weird talking like, oh, we're going to have a spoiler-free section. It's the Count of Monte Cristo, a book that's over 150 years old, but I guess you can have a spoiler-free section. I don't think it'll be that long, but spoiler-free reasons, what did you think about this book? What are your overall thoughts?
So my thoughts are exactly what you said. Don't read the unabridged version. This book is long. It's actually longer than Sanderson books, I believe, most of the Stormlight Archive. It might be the longest book I've ever read, ? I have to look at the exact word count, but it's 400 and something thousand words. 460, something like that, thousand words. And so it's a chonker of a book. Reading Count of Monte Cristo, the first 100 or 200 pages hooks you with the revenge. It's a revenge story, and you're following the character Edmond Dantes.
Edmond Dantes.
And this plot that occurs against him at the very, very beginning of the book, and then you're following his story. You're following the Count of Monte Cristo's story and seeing his pathway toward potential revenge, right? And so the first part of the book had me hooked, and this classic has characters that will stick with you because Edmond Dantes has maybe 20 different names in this book alone.
The first one being Dantes.
Dantes, yes.
Not Dante.
I was trying to say the pronunciation of the audiobook. They had a little bit of a flair, French flair on it.
I'm pretty sure it's still Dantes. I think it's still S. Correct if I'm wrong. We're trying. You got to give us a little bit of a break on this one. We're not French. We have not taken French classes, so
No, but yeah, my brief thoughts are I always want to read the original piece, the unabridged. I would not want to cut the corners of it. So if you are like that and you want to read the original, go all in. Plenty of people will like it and not be bored or middling and feel that it's sluggish. I think the middle portion of this book I was slow to get through. I was trudging through the middle 500 to 600 pages, and I want to keep this a little light. We'll get more into the spoiler territory. However, I would say if you're going into this, read the unabridged version. I think this could be shortened a lot and you'll still get the same story, which is why when you hear people recommend Monte Cristo is that. Quick fact that I didn't know is I looked into this afterwards, and Alexandre Dumas, the author, who also wrote The Three Musketeers, by the way, a very famous, prolific author, in the time he was writing this serialized version from 1844 to 1846, he was either paid per line or per section, something like that. He was paid, the longer it went on, the better. Now, obviously, some people are riveted and want it to be longer. However, I think he was definitely incentivized to make this story as long as humanly possible. So there's subplot upon subplot upon subplot, and he's paid for it. So, and we as the reader pay by our time investment. And a lot of you that will go out and read this for the first time, I don't know how many people I'm speaking to that haven't read this yet, but a lot of the people that would go and read this, I think there's two types of readers. There's the you, which I could expect you weren't as sluggish about the middle. Like, what are your thoughts? I was definitely sluggish through the middle part of the book.
Sure, I felt it a little bit.
Yeah.
There was a certain stretch, not the entire middle section. Like there's a clear section of like the beginning introduction to the Count, which is I think probably the most riveting of like all this promise, and then there is very much a clear ending of the promise is being paid off in subsequent form pretty rapidly. There is a sliver of time where I'm going like 3-4 subplots in a row where I'm going like, okay, this is a little long. I'm invested, but not as much as the others.
Yeah. And this might be just part of my disdain for the French people coming.
Sure.
Because we just read the article by Roland Barthes, The Death of the Author. I think I'm just on a French firecracker journey right now. I'm just trying to find these French people, and they talk as if they're more sophisticated than me, and they are, and it annoys me.
No. Walk that back. No, the French are worse than you. You are better than the French. All French, not this singular French person.
Just
all French.
Thanks so much. Oh, does that just mean how much you hate them versus how much you
No,
think of
they're
me?
just they're the whipping boy of like
Of
the
all the
world.
jokes in the world, yeah.
Yeah, of course. There's reason to be, but still. I think it's my civic duty to be a little anti-French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the book, spoiler free, and what would you tell people to expect going in? Because a lot of people watching this, either they could be big Monte Cristo fans, or they haven't taken up the 1,400 page, or whatever it is, tome, depending on your copy. So 400 something thousand words.
I read this straight through as fast as I possibly could read it, but I think there is some merit to reading this as it was intended to be read, of in a serialized format. Take your time with it. I think that's perfectly acceptable. There was a great audiobook by, I'm now trying to remember the name of, I listened to an audiobook as well. So I did both immersion reading, audiobook only, and then regular physical reading. I'm trying to remember the audiobook narrator that did this one, that I read at least. Bill Homewood. That's the version that I listened to. I think he did a fantastic job if you're looking for an audiobook version. But no, this is a very long book, very epic, but you're just going to need to take your time.
Yeah, it is an epic revenge tale of very grand proportions. Grand as in epic in scope and a lot of subplots. And another thing to go into this book expecting as well, I wasn't in the book club. You were in the book club with the patrons. And how did that go, by the way? Good?
It went well. Yeah. We had a good discussion on the nature of revenge and what this book is particularly trying to say about it, because I don't think it is just clear black and white of like your classic, revenge is never worth it. I don't think it goes that far, but it's definitely not like, yeah, revenge is the best. It does something in between, which is more interesting.
There's stuff to talk about. Yeah. This is, our goal throughout this episode is our podcast episode be as long as the book. So sit in, strap down, get ready for how long is the audiobook?
Like 60 something hours.
A 70-hour podcast episode, just so we can talk about everything in the book and not miss a beat. Okay, another thing going in to expect, I think the type of reader that would like this, obviously if you like your classics, but more so character readers. If you are a character reader and you just want to see the political drama that takes place in 1840s post-Napoleonic era France, that's what to expect going in, because you're going to sit and soak with these characters, the dialogue back and forth. It's known for witty and interesting conversations, and you even have a part in there where main character's talking to another character and they're just talking about the theme itself of vengeance. And they just go back and forth and talk about vengeance. And that people that like that and like getting these quotes that you can use in your daily life as well. There's plenty of quotes in Count of Monte Cristo that you can take away. However, I read we read the same translation. I know the different translations you can get a type of, translations are just different in general. What have you looked into at all, figuring out if this translation that we read, which I don't even know if this is the same one as the audiobook, this might be different, because the one I have here is a Barnes & Noble copy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what book you have in there, but the thing I've heard that I just didn't buy, but I bought a used book, and so I'm not even positive what version it is. I pull it off the shelf at some point, but the recommendation I've heard online over and over is the newest version of Penguin Random House has a translation that apparently is really, really good. Nice. And it is considered like the definitive version for English speakers. We didn't have that one, so I just bought it a used copy. So maybe you should do that if you're looking to buy it, but I did not. So the Bill Homewood version is also not the new Penguin Random House version. Bill Homewood, that's a fairly older audiobook. But yeah.
We need to get to the meat of what is your spoiler-free Ramble rating for The Count of Monte Cristo.
Spoiler-free, overall, a 4.5. Spectacular novel. The rest of my scores up here. Thank you, Nick.
Or down here, wherever Nick puts it.
Wherever he likes to put things.
Cue me in.
Austin?
Nope. Cue me in. Cue me in.
Lord Austin, please give us your Rambler rating score.
3 stars. I was neutral about the book. Yeah. I just wanted you to hype it up as much as possible for that flat nothing burger of an opinion.
That is sad.
Yeah.
That's real disappointing.
When reading this book as well, I have just as many. I'm very glad to have read it, being a classic and wanting to be more knowledgeable about the Monte Cristo and the tale it is. So I'm not upset about my read. I think I'm in between, because there's stuff I liked and then stuff I would say, oh, I wish I read the unabridged, or I wish this was done differently.
You mean you wish you read the abridged?
The abridged, yes, exactly. Yes. So you kind of heard where our opinions are coming from for that. So my opinion is the characters are the best part about this book, and the worst part is the plot, I would say.
I like the plot actually a lot. So that'll be significant disagreement.
It'll be a juicy episode.
Yeah. All right. I think we're...
what do you think? Best, worst? What?
Oh, sure. Best for me is Prose. By far.
Oh, neat.
Incredibly well written. I love the dialogue between characters. It is the dialogue and banter back and forth between characters that make this whole story alive. If it wasn't for that, there were many scenes in here that would not work, maybe would drag a lot harder if the dialogue wasn't just so riveting to read through. And it was engaging. So that is what really pulled me through. Also, the fact that it, through a translation to English over 150 years ago, how approachable this novel is. A very understandable, wonderful.
Nice.
Worst is emotional impact for me. It's still great, but that's my lowest.
Very fair. Yeah, all of our scores down here, as you can see.
Mhm.
And going into this spoiler section, I'm fighting an uphill battle. I know there's a lot of fans of Monte Cristo here, so
Mhm.
take this as you will. What is it time? Spoiler?
Time to go.
Spoiler warning for Count of Monte Cristo. You've had almost 200 years. Now, if you want to keep that streak going, now it's time to tune out. Okay, emotional impact. What'd you give it out of 5 stars?
I give it a 4.0. I think it was great. I had
Nice.
great moments where I really was emotionally enjoyed. I was sucked into it where I never had a point where I was like, I want to put this down. I was constantly engaged, even if I was maybe a little exhausted just how long it is. But other than that, I was emotionally invested in many of the storylines as well.
Nice.
So I was there for it.
I gave it this same as my overall 3 stars. Neutral
Okay.
about it. What was the most exciting part about the book? Because we'll probably agree on this.
Personally, it would be the relationship between the Count of Monte Cristo, like the Count and Albert. I really
Albert?
enjoyed their
Yeah,
dynamic.
okay.
And so I was most
Yeah.
emotionally invested in their relationship, especially from when you first get introduced. You get introduced to Albert's last name, like, ooh, the son of his former love, and
Mercedes.
Mercedes. And so you already knows, like, oh, is this part of the Count's plan? Is this an accident that he's pouncing upon?
Mhm.
What is this? And this faux friendship dynamic, and you wonder how it's going to turn out. That was the heart of my emotional investment. And then beyond that, because there's a bunch of things that follow around that I was invested in. But
What an
that was
epic
for me.
tale. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little daunted already getting into this because, did that thunder get picked up on the camera? Because if you all heard that, and if this episode
was
shuts
loud.
down,
Hey,
lightning might strike here.
I have UPSs, 2 of them in this
We're
in this
surviving.
room. Oh no, the power can go out for at least 15 minutes, and I think we'll
I
survive.
don't know if that's going to last the episode.
We'll have to rush it.
We'll see. Okay, so as you're talking about Albert and Monte Cristo's relationship, I'm already thinking of how many different character relationships there are in this book. It's insane.
Yeah.
So that you could pick a lot of favorites. For me, the most riveting parts about the book was I was hooked at the beginning of the setup. You have to have a good setup to the revenge
Mhm.
for this to be a good revenge story in the first place. So having multiple villains already set up right from the get-go in Villefort and in Cararus, in Danglars, and in Fernand. Wow. You could just see how many times the narrator said these names. They are seared into my skull.
You actually we both kind of have the pronunciation. Okay,
That's not bad.
Better
That's
than
not
if we
bad.
just physically read it.
For sure.
Bill Homewood, one of the reasons why he did a fantastic job is his pronunciation is actually really well done, especially for French. You
Mhm.
listen to a lot of the English audiobooks, they're going to say Mercedes. It's Mercedes.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
So I was most emotionally involved and impacted in the beginning, the hook, where we get our 3 villains with different motivations of trying to put down Edmond Dantès, who is just a good guy. He's got everything made for him. He has the most perfect wife. A wife so perfect, even in her old age, her son wants to fuck her. Albert many times was going, I just wish my mom was younger, man. And so
He's got some mommy issues.
Yeah, but that's how amazing Mercedes is. So you look at Edmond and you're going, oh, what a great guy. And he has a little bit of this naivete of thinking that he thinks so positively about the world in his youth before he's in prison for 14 years. He thinks so positively about the world that why would there ever be a plot against him? He's oblivious to all that, of course. So the setup to the revenge, and secondly, the escape out of prison, I thought was so smart and well done.
It was really well done. It's so great.
It was so first what Edmond does in the prison when he starts to hear, oh, there's someone is digging outside of his cell wall. The first thing that he goes is, oh my God, is this, I don't know if it's construction. I don't know if it's the prison itself, or is it a fellow prisoner that's trying to escape? And so to test who it is, he bangs against the wall.
Yeah.
And then hears the noise stop. And to him, that signals, okay, only a prisoner would stop digging if they heard a noise because they're trying to stay quiet at night versus, bless you. And Bless you.
Good Lord.
Oh, Lord Richard. That was a scene. You're being blessed, so that makes you a saint in a way. You're the
Yes.
saint. I'm the Lord in this episode. I'll refer to you as Saint Richard.
Saint Richard, Lord Austin.
Good. But Count Monte Cristo, yeah. So then if Edmond Dantès made a noise in the prison cell and the noise outside continued, obviously it would be construction, because why would the construction crew care and stop? So you first have that. Then you have the actual escape itself, where his buddy Abbe Faria, who said something interesting we'll talk about in Thought Provoking. I'm really curious on your take. But Abbe Faria dies, and he goes into his dead body bag and gets cast out. The escape was riveting too. I'm going, oh, yeah, wow. So that was my favorite part of the book, was that first section.
I really like that section a lot.
Yeah.
It's riveting. It's fun. Edmond Dantès is basically Batman before Batman became a thing. He's the earliest Batman of just, you see that origin story of him locked away for 14 years. He's trained in languages and all, like kept his strength up and exercising, learning all the different, he's learning math, chemistry, and all that's great. And then comes across a fortune and he's on a path of revenge. It's Batman, but French.
With the mentor character, probably better than Yoda and Karate Kid's, what's his name?
Mr. Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
Abbe Faria had all the knowledge, all the money to give him to. Will say him up for success.
the Abbe Faria was so intelligent, wealthy, all these things. I'm going like, how the hell did you get caught in prison? Like, why are you staying here? Like, I would think he would have some way out of it.
He's so smart. You're believing this guy, man. He could do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, he's doing a pretty good job of digging through the prison, taking 10 years or whatever, or 7. I can't remember how long he was working on it before him and Edmond actually meet. But no, that stuff was riveting to me. I really enjoyed it. I do know the distinction. Like, I had a little bit of a dip off right after that of, I was invested in the mystery of like, okay, I know this is Dantès. What is his plan? What is he doing? Who are these new people we're meeting? But there was a dip off of like, maybe I wasn't as interested, and then I just kind of got hooked into the characters.
I wonder if
it grew on me
when this book came out. This is not canon. This is lore in my head. I wonder if when the book came out, people are going, man, 1844 Monte Cristo was great. 1845 Monte Cristo kind of dragged. And 1846 Monte Cristo landed at home. Because you have to think, there was an entire 2+ years, 3 years of this coming out. So I wonder, that would have been cool to get the live reactions. Because I think this book also, I think it's fair to say this, that it reads better as a serialized book than it does the book. It's if you're reading the unabridged version, which is why the reason the abridged version would have probably been preferable to me, because Alexander Dumas, when he's writing this, it was intended as section by section by section. So you're left off with maybe a little cliffhanger or something to talk about. It was literally episodic of here's a little mini episode with these characters. See you next week. And then as a whole book, this whole tome, it reads differently because you're just doing it back to back to back at will. So a part of that, why I recommend the abridged, you probably too, is probably has a bit to do with that. So I guess my complaints on that side emotionally are, we get introduced back into Italy. We take place in Italy with Albert and Franz. Yes. Franz. And we start to figure out, okay, who are they in the grand picture of things? My overall emotional feel is, I was feeling the revenge at the beginning, and slowly by the end it petered. I started to lose the fervor of, I guess, the whole prison section. I'm thinking, oh, screw you, Danglars, screw you, Fernand, screw you, Villefort. What the hell did you do to my boy, Edmond Dantès? And the longer the book got, the more I started to lose the sympathy. Not, of course, he's still sympathetic. I started to lose the emotional fervor, because now I'm seeing the Count of Monte Cristo, who seems like this badass Batman-esque figure who's pulling off all these intricate subplots. And that stuff being interesting alone, I started to lose the emotional revenge part of it. I started to care a little less about the revenge aspect, because, I mean, so many years passed, so many pages passed. So for me, it petered.
Thing is, that was a little bit of my enjoyment from it. I had that moment of enough time has passed, like it's going beyond just the simple, oh, Dantes is out, he's gonna go exact revenge. So much time passes, and it develops far more about the relationship between these characters and the mystery of how is the Count going to actually enact his revenge. Like, this is not going to be a simple, oh, I'm just going to ruin you. No, it's twisted. It's like, no, I'm going to ruin you with the way you ruined me. Like, the thing you value most, I'm going to take away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then along the way, you see things get complicated, and just all the subplots and the romantic attachments. I was invested in Maximilian, and I think that was just a fantastic moment of the Count like screaming at Maximilian, like, you're in love with Villefort, that filthy dirt. Just his anger building up of just, he wanted to erase the bloodline, not just the let me get the right name and actually pronounce it right. Gerard de Villefort. He not just kill him. No, I'm going to ruin his entire bloodline. And the Count going through the stage, that kind of anger, and pulling himself back and going, I can't do that. Like, I know the pain of being separated from the one you love by, like, you know, caught in the crossfire. Him loving Maximilian over time, and then endeavoring to save Valentina. But I that was emotionally pulling to me. I was all of those little relationships was engaging.
But doesn't it lose some of that fervor for you? The fact that he's French, he's going, oh, I want revenge.
A little bit,
because the French part is what
the French part. Yeah. The reason why it's not a 5, it is French. You can't give the French. I can't be wholly sympathetic to the French.
The French, come on.
Yeah.
We just obviously. So that makes sense. So that portion with Maximilian, and you could see where that emotion comes back to him, and he starts to the anger.
Almost every single one of these points is it was just a roller coaster ride of introduction is fun, but like, I'm going, okay, where is this going? How's it going to connect to revenge? And then I start to care less about the revenge, and I care more about the relationship, and that continues on and on.
And so by the end, Albert and the Counts.
Albert and the Count was, I think, the most emotionally pulling for me, because you just, from the very first introduction, you go, uh-oh, how is this going to collapse? Because many of the other characters, you go, like, it's a simple enough relationship, and you see the Count actually start to care about him, but all the others seem pretty simple. It's either, oh, this person doesn't know they're the enemy, or the other side of, oh, this person is a friend, and it's pretty easy to see where things are going. Albert was the one, how is this going to play out? Because he clearly doesn't hate Albert. Particularly, he doesn't hate Mercedes.
He's in a Snape situation.
But a better version. Snape, not so good. Edmond Dantes is good.
It's kind of similar.
It's incredibly similar.
Yeah.
It's like the same. It's exactly the same.
But Snape's also incredible.
No, he isn't.
Yes, he is.
No, he isn't.
Yes, he is.
He's a creep.
That's what makes him incredible. So part of the character relationship part, this is another emotionally pulling moment where I wanted more. And so again, why that revenge aspect of it? Because that's the core of the novel, and him seeking. Well, there's more themes. Talk about Providence, but Edmond Dante, him seeking this revenge, and the moment that things began to change for him, which we'll talk more in themes of what the book's saying. But if you remember the chapter later in the book that he starts to change is after Villefort shows that his son is killed, was poisoned by his wife, basically showing the cost of revenge of, hey, look, the innocent that also died in this case. So I think emotionally why, for me, there was a little disconnect is when Villefort's kid died and he sees the Eduardo on the ground, there's that emotionally written, the prose was really good to go, look, oh my God, he's looking at this dead body of this child. So I could see how that is objectively, look, dead kid, that should be emotionally touching. For as much as we dove into all these characters and the relationships in the book, Villefort's kid was not a feature in the book, Eduardo, the kid.
I know.
So there's so many names. Yeah. So Monte Cristo, when he sees, oh, I also killed Eduardo's kid, I think, especially with how long the book is and how much you're building this up, the person to die there to change Monte Cristo's attitude toward revenge, or to get him to emotionally see, oh no, what have I done? Because his oh no, what have I done moment was with Villefort's kid. And of the characters to go away, with Eduardo being built up, I would have hoped for a more something that the reader was more emotionally, or at least me reading this, was more emotionally connected to. That I was going, okay, that was where the switch started. I was not as convinced by the pivot there.
See, I would disagree with you. That's not the pivot. Pivot is Albert. That's because before that, it's the whole scene with basically Mercedes and, God, I need to make sure I get these names right. It's so hard. Hold on, I will get it. For Fernand Mondego.
Mm-hmm.
The twist is the first domino that starts to fall is him, because the other Catarus, I think he dies first, and that's more
suicide.
Nope,
yeah? Or
more pathetic. His has just a pathetic side.
Oh, because he lets him go.
He
and
gets
he's killed by the
Peppino
son,
or
Baruccio or something.
Well, Benedito.
That's it.
Yes. But Catarus is pathetic character. There's kind of no sympathy. Like that was honestly, that was a side quest. The count was like, I don't even have to do anything to you. I literally gave you like free money and you ruined yourself. I've barely done anything.
That didn't take any plot.
This took no effort.
You
ruined yourself. Yeah. The only thing I did is I saw the guy that wanted to kill you, and I didn't tell you. That's about it. But everything else was your fault. So that's the first time. There's nothing. There's no problems. There's no guilt on your way. And then you have this whole setup with Albert, and he knows that, okay, I'm going to take down his father. And part of this is like, I'm going to kill. Just him knowing that I'm going to kill Albert. I'm going to kill the son of Fernand, and this will make my revenge sweeter. He's not doesn't really want to kill Albert, but he knows. Albert? Yeah, the duel. The duel.
Well, no, he backs out of duel because of Mercedes, right?
But that is the turning point.
That's not the turning point.
Yes, it is. It's the moment when he's willing to give up his entire revenge. No, that he is going to stop his whole revenge scheme. That's the pivot point of him realizing the consequences and like him thinking maybe this revenge is not completely worth it. There's other things that are maybe more important. That is the pivot point when he starts to change. It's not when he sees the dead kid. If anything, I think his shock is more tied to how much the Count is just this almost magical figure of he can do anything. And he always was like, hey, this is Providence. I am an agent of God. And like, I can do anything.
He is
and almost through every part of the story, he's able to do the impossible. And so this dead kid in front of him is kind of like a slap in the face of, no, you're not. You're not God. You are not this capable figure of all these impossible feats, and you try and make these things all complicated, and look what fell through the cracks of like, you are a man. You are not, this is not divine providence. I think it's more that than just guilt. But no, his turning point of being a little bit more swayed of like, is this revenge worth it, is between Mercedes and Albert.
So why do you think how do you read it, why he didn't want to kill Albert?
I mean, it's Mercedes.
What was his main? Yeah.
He still loves her. Not the same way anymore. It is a changed love, but he can't bear, he knows the amount of pain it will cause her, and he cannot bear to do that to her. Right.
So I think where the emotional pull that I read into was that scene happens, and he essentially wants to kill himself there. He's like, hey, I'll just give in, not for his love of Albert, but for his love of Mercedes. Mercedes is the one who convinces him, hey, don't do this because, hey, it would hurt me, somebody that he cares for. You see what I mean? Where it's Edmond Dantès cares about Mercedes, and because he cares about Mercedes, he's like, okay, maybe this isn't worth it to go this direction. And Mercedes bails him out by, basically
Yep.
gets a duel called off. Albert comes and apologizes, and then he continues with his revenge tour. Now, maybe there's a bit more caution, or there's seeds in mind, but
For 14 years he's been imprisoned, and for another 10-ish years more, he is on a path of revenge.
Yep.
He is gaining his resources. He's putting everything in place, and he's willing to give it all up. And it's a moment of him going, like, his entire reason for living, he is willing to give it up and put it aside. That is a turning point for him of realizing there may be things more important. Maybe this whole revenge scheme isn't worth it. That's the first point he's willing to put it to the side.
I understand that. So here's what I'm reading into is he does this, puts it aside for his love for Mercedes. So the reason he's in prison, the whole focus of the book here is on his wedding day is when he was captured and put into prison. Mercedes, who he's thinking about. Fernand marries Mercedes, the person he was supposed to love. His life with Mercedes. How Albert loves Mercedes. So you have Mercedes as the focus, and when he sees, he could be hurting Mercedes, that is when he realizes, well, what's the point? It's Mercedes. Mercedes, the person I love, wasn't this what it was all for, and feels bad about it. He has that pivot point. After Mercedes bails him out, and he Go ahead.
The follow-up is, why do you think the death of Villefort's child is the real pivot point?
This is what I mean by the emotional pull. What I'm talking about here is, are we still on emotional impact? Good. there's the pivot, and he was willing to give up the revenge for his love for Mercedes. Then we have the revenge continue, him going through Villefort and going to so he starts his revenge against Villefort, and Villefort's immediate response to him is then to say, "Look what you've done. I'm going to show you my kid right now and what you've done to me." So he says, "Edmond Dantès, who cares if you're Edmond Dantès? Come here. I'm going to show you what you've done to my family." Goes and then shows him the son. Now that's the first moment where that's the pivot moment where we see Edmond Dantès, the Count of Monte Cristo, looks and sees the result of his revenge and feels regret now. Now, it's not because he loves Mercedes. That first scene that we're talking about is his love for Mercedes shows, well, the whole point is for her. I mean, I love her more than I want this revenge. Now it's not about his love for Mercedes. Now it's simply about the revenge itself. He doesn't love Villefort more than he loves the kid that was killed on the ground. He's simply looking at, I wanted revenge against this bad person, and the consequence was killing this innocent kid. So that's...
But do you see how those two moments are basically the same, of him, the first one being him realizing that his revenge is coming at the cost, like that he is going to do harm to another. He's not that he's going to hurt someone
that's my point.
Someone else.
Yeah, my point though is
the actual victim.
Yeah, no, that my point is Mercedes is somebody he does love. So let's say, for example, the role was switched here of Albert was on the ground dead, right? And then I would look at Albert on the ground dead, and then you see Mercedes hurt, and you'd go, oh shit. And then Edmond would go, what have I done? And the reader would likewise, at least my reading of this, people love this book, so would go, holy shit, look, he killed Albert at the cost of look what he did to Mercedes. Now, if there was a duel scene where that actually happened, and let's say he had to make that decision of he actually had to kill Albert in front of Mercedes and see Mercedes react, to me, that would be holy shit. But the duel gets stopped. But anyways, the moment that I'm talking about later is that happens. Then he continues, I guess, from the perspective of Edmond Dantès and our connection with Eduardo, Villefort's kid, is that seems like an emotionally... I can read the scene as well. I have it somewhere pulled up on here. But the language used there is showing how that moment is terrifying to Monte Cristo. Like, that is emotionally terrifying to him, of seeing that dead body on the ground. And my issue with that is that kid I don't have an emotional connection to. It's the family of Villefort, and he's not... the person he's hurting still is... obviously that innocent kid, but the Villefort family, which I don't care about the Villefort family. He doesn't, but obviously it's an innocent kid. So on the objective case of, hey, there's a dead kid, it should be sad. But on the emotional character connection, I cared a lot more about the Herbert Mercedes stuff, and so does Edmond Dantès. He should also care more because it's Mercedes he loves. But yeah, that's more so my point is, I think the disconnect there is he loves Mercedes so much and is willing to put this on pause, but then the shown consequences of what is the actual result. What did your revenge get you is a dead kid. And so you look at, okay, when we talk about the themes, we're going, is revenge worth it? We're looking, well, look what he did to Villefort. He did this. He screwed over Villefort and his horrible wife. Yet,
I think I'm starting to understand the difference in our perspective on this is I don't think this book is just a hard line, like revenge is completely bad. Look at the horrors of it. Look at how it's never worth it.
I agree.
That's not it. But because that whole scene is, I think, more complicated than him going, oh my God, look at I've killed this kid. Look at the consequences of my actions. I think it's partly that, and part the Count is not as powerful. He is not this God's providence that he thought, of him just high on his own ego and seeing like he couldn't prevent this. And I think it's more of a hit toward his own power and ego, equally as like, the loss of a child. And even a stack on top of that is him knowing he could have probably saved that child if he did a less complicated plan. But he is arrogant to such a degree that the fact that he's willing to put Valentine in such a precarious situation, let the poison her multiple times in her bedroom, like trying to kill her, and this whole complicated plan, rather than just, he could have done it another way and just stopped her and would have saved everyone. And he probably still could have gotten his revenge. Maybe it just wouldn't have been as sweet because he wanted more. He was like, fine, I'll save Valentine Maximilian for you, but I still want not just Villefort's downfall as a person, I want his whole family gone. Part of the plan is like, I want Valentine to be dead to Villefort. I want Villefort to still lose his entire family. I'm going to have my cake and eat it too. Villefort's daughter is going to die, but we'll spirit her away. But I still want my full revenge of like the twist, like he needs to lose everything, his family, his honor, all of it. And so it's when that comes crashing, like, you can't have everything. That's how I was reading it. Rather than
where
just
where do you think we differ on that?
I didn't put a lot of stock into like his guilt over the dead kid.
Oh yeah,
that was like, that's there.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it wasn't like a large moment. Like, this is the moment where Dantes realizes that revenge is not worth it, and look at the consequences of his actions. I didn't really see it that way.
Well, to your point, though, that moment of the consequences of his action, he's looking for the first time at this providence. Everybody gets what they deserve, of if he's ordained by God or he has this sort of providence to enact this justice on earth. That's his moment of realizing, wait a second, maybe God's not on my side. Maybe the providence isn't there. I think the scene is more important than that. I do think it's a very critical moment in the book.
It is a critical moment. I just didn't see it as like the first turning point of his headlong and revenge.
There can be several turning points too. I agree with that.
Because by the end, his final revenge is he kind of cuts himself off. He lets arguably the principal origin of his revenge go. Like, he makes him penniless, but he lets him live, and he gives him like 30,000 whatever fake dollars.
Yes, francs or something. See, French people.
But
as much as we argue, we'll still fight you, French people. It doesn't matter.
Yes, anytime, any day. But no, you just see the domino start falling of his dedication to this revenge slipping. But like each time, and he's still willing to go through with it, and a lot of it is, hey, I'm giving almost divine retribution. In many ways, I'm giving justice of like, part of his revenge for, Fernand is ultimately just unearthing the truth of like, you have honor that you have gotten, inhonorably, whatever.
Dishonorably, yeah.
He has dishonored his family through his actions, and I am just bringing it to light. The fact that he kills himself is kind of on him. Yeah, he pushed the dominoes, but it's not like he made him do anything. Same thing with all of these characters. He's more shining a light on them and letting society drag him down, rather than him like actually doing something super negative to him.
He provides the poison. What are you going to do with it? What you doing with the poison? Yeah,
that is even more. Yeah, more directly with Villefort, of like literally telling the wife, how to poison, like giving her this.
It was
great
just
poison.
scientific. She was just curious. He was saying, well, this is how you could.
This is how you could do this.
Yeah.
3 drops kills you without a trace.
Right.
No trace on the body. And yeah, so probably that's the most direct hand he had. But the rest, he was just kind of showing the world their flaws.
I have no issue with how the presentation of it, of that is the dominoes do fall. That is how he starts to go. Revenge is more complicated than that. There's more, which we'll talk about in the themes. We're still on emotional impact. The emotional beats of Albert and Mercedes, of him then wanting to kill himself, Mercedes bailing out, and then the dead son being there. Emotional connection of the characters that we were presented, and Edmond's connection with Villefort's dead son versus Albert, that those two being pivot moments, emotionally was going, okay, it would have been more impactful, I think, to Edmond and to us as the reader. And I mean this not impactful as in he's looking at Providence in that theme, which we'll get into, but the son dying there, or him having to do something to Albert, that being the emotional connection of where was my heart? Who did I care about? I cared about Albert. I care about Mercedes. I care about Edmond. Villefort's son, who is he? You know, who is this character? Who are these different people? And then for those to be moments that Edmond reflects on, or the dominoes that start to fall, I guess I would just hope for more emotionally impactful character deaths, not in the villain sense, but as the innocent people death. If the innocent people that died was more impactful, I'm starting to go, I'm more emotionally invested to look at this, and now it makes me think more about the themes. That's more so where I was with it, rather than it didn't read bad. I'm neutral on it. I mean, it read very clinically of, okay, this is interesting. I wasn't bored by it. I wasn't disappointed by it. It was interesting. It's an interesting way to develop this. However, with how big the novel is, with how many characters there are, I think different decisions could have been made to be more guttural and whoa. So obviously it would have been a completely different book. So it's a classic. It's classic for a reason. I'm nobody. But the Albert and Mercedes and him, that pivot point as well, for him to kind of give up and go, you know what? Because he loves Mercedes so much, and having that realization, I wonder what would have happened if the innocent death, if something emotionally impactful in that sphere happened to Edmond, and how much more I would have been sweating reading those sections. And again, this is just I'm not getting. We're kind of beating that to death too, but that's where my perspective's coming from. Curious about you though, because we talked about that moment, and we don't have to overemphasize that too much. But we are talking about the revenge aspect in the end. We're talking about that last 10% of the book where the dominoes do start to fall. What was your favorite part about that? Because again, I got sidetracked on just that moment. There's a lot of revenge that happens. So was there a different moment for you that you started, like, where your heart started beating? Where were you invested a lot in his plots unfolding? Was there a specific family that you were going, that subplot I'm very interested in?
I liked Villefort's, I liked Valentina and Maximilian. It was so cheesy that I liked it. Like the cheese between the love story between it was so over the top. Yeah. And I liked it. I was invested with them. Like, it was just adorable, and like seeing them just fall by the wayside, and just I liked that.
What about what Edmond did to our boy at the end, to Maximilian?
Oh yeah, gave him all the millions.
Before that.
Oh yeah. No, brutal.
Put him through the ringer.
Oof. Which again, okay, part of it is him going, hey, I want to prove to you, like, go through the pain that I, like, know that this love is not just, young love, and it's this fickle thing. You will now appreciate it a lot more in many ways, like I have, where I had to suffer the separation, and now you get the woman at the end. Like, I understand. He had a point of, like, to tie them to even closer together and show, like, you get to go through a taste of what I have, but you actually get the woman in the end. But man, oof, how much he had to make a person he apparently loves suffer like that. Like, Jesus Christ. It's like, and just Maximilian, like, yeah, I'm going to go kill myself. And instead of the Count going, look, your woman's okay. Instead of going, for me, your bro, don't kill yourself for like 30 days.
He artificially created suffering. He artificially created. Okay, I'm gonna age myself and look dumb, but the same way Red Rising creates the games, because we're like, we need to artificially create suffering in some way to strengthen.
Yeah.
And zoom in on this, Nick. He literally says, "I want you to suffer and know death, so that you can truly live, and truly live a fulfilling life. So I'm going to, 1, make you think your loved one is dead, gone forever, and never to return again. And I want you to get so near suicide, so close to suicide, that the noose is right over there." Just kidding. And then that's the whole, he pulls you in. And by the way, I'm not complaining about that. I thought that was like I sympathized with that. If I understand why Edmond Dante would do that, because look at his life.
Well, look at his life. It also adds on top. He's not just saving the girl, then going away. He plans on giving Maximilian everything, giving him all his, leaving his fortune to him, leaving him the island of Monte Cristo, and like trying to go like, hey, look, Maximilian, you're going to come out of this like I did, of like, you're going to come out of the ringer like on the other side a better man for it. Really appreciate, rather than this puppy love that you'll know you truly love this woman, not just a young fling thing that you think that you love. Anyway, and also it kind of proves your loyalty to me. It's a shit test basically as well, of like, do you deserve my fortune? Are you willing to stick by me? Are you willing to go through this pain because of me?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with at the Abbey, Abbey Faria.
Yep.
It was the loyalty with Dantes and the Abbey Faria that Faria actually says, okay, you have stuck by me long after it was actually necessary. You wanted to die yourself. If you wanted to leave, like you could have, but you stuck by me anyway. Here's my fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dantes is doing the same thing of like, how much do you trust me? How much do you value my loyalty? Are you loyal to me? And he is. And so here is my fortune.
Yep.
So I get it, but damn, he's a little extra.
Would you do that to your future child of, hey, these next couple years are going to be pretty rough.
You're going to go on a character journey.
Listen, I went to 14 years of prison. I'll give you 2.
Can you imagine sitting across from your child at the dining room table at 12 years old, young, but an age they can understand the conversation somewhat, and you just put down a check for like $20,000 and slide it over and go, that's your check for therapy after I'm done with you. The next couple years are going to be rough, and I'm paying for your therapy in advance.
Poor kid. Your poor children. Look them dead in the eyes. That visual is hilarious. I mean, it's so funny because it's pretty damn close to what he did.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay,
Oh,
you French
God.
people are crazy. Jeez.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Thought-provokingness.
Thought-provokingness.
What'd you give it out of 5 stars?
Oh. I gave it a 4.25. I thought it was really great.
Really great.
Yeah.
I could be convinced to go up a couple here, or a couple of points, but 3.25 above average.
Okay.
Yeah.
The big reason why I'm giving it more, like a much higher score than I initially anticipated going into this book, because I know the Count of Monte Cristo, it's about revenge and the cost of revenge.
Yep.
Fair enough. If it was just that and was handled really well, it'd probably be, really good, maybe great.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know where this is going and it's handled well.
Yeah.
Fine. Fair enough. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing, like I wasn't floored. What interested me is that this story was not just about revenge, and it's showing that it's not too simplistic in the sense of, oh yeah, revenge is bad, all revenge not good. No, in many ways it's the closer Dantes' revenge was to actual justice, the more like righteous it was. Like a lot of situations where he didn't have this guilt, he didn't have the complications was when it was a little bit more simple, straightforward of just like, I'm going to show the people the truth. Like, why could he not, when he gets right out of prison, just, go and, shoot them and kill them? That's not justice. It would be just straight up revenge. Why doesn't he go to the authorities and like say, hey, look, they did this awful thing to me. They have ruined my life. They're in powerful positions. They can't. Doesn't happen. So it takes all of his money, all of his influence and years to create a situation where justice actually can come through, where the people can see them for who they truly are. And in that sense, that's, according to the book, like, that's good. Like, the tremendous amount of effort for justice. Like, that's the thing I find with this is the Count is not just pursuing revenge. He is pursuing divine justice. And when he does accomplish divine justice, it's good. When it ebbs into revenge, that's when it's bad. And that's more interesting than just, oh, Dantes is going out for revenge and that's bad. That's what I liked. There's so many little moments that Villefort is the big one of, you see the outbursts of anger of, okay, this is not just divine justice. He could reveal Villefort's schemes and all the, him being a corrupt politician. He could ruin him in many ways, but the amount of innocent people he's dragging in, and not just falls by the wayside through happenstance, but his venom for it. He wants them dead. That's where it edges into revenge compared to Fernand of, like, what did he do to Fernand ultimately? He didn't actually do that much.
What he did to Fernand was
he
went to a telegram, changed the signal so that
that was
Danglars. Sorry, Fernand is married to Mercedes.
Yes.
Yeah. Never mind then. Yeah. What he did to Danglars was more direct. He went to the telegram. Go on, Fernand. Yeah.
But Fernand, the most simple thing is like, Dantes is going through, and after he gets out of jail, he gets to see Fernand's life and goes like, oh, look at this awful thing that he did. Oh, look at this group. In
Turkey
leader
or did something over there.
Oh,
yeah.
he betrayed this person. He betrayed me. And he basically just collects the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the important day when it's right to bring it forward, he presents it to his fellows and like absolute proof, including the victim, and goes like, look, everything Fernand has done to gain his position has been dishonorable. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't twist the knife. He doesn't like try and ruin the family. That is justice. Like, just that is justice. The fact that Fernand does kill himself was not on the Count. Maybe the Count knew it, but the revenge was justice. That was divine justice. Later on, it gets different. I think we can go into each one. It's a little bit differently and why the reaction to each revenge is changed.
He did what Villefort should be doing as a judge.
Yes, exactly.
And that is the actual job, instead of this false justice of putting you in prison, wrongly imprisoning you. Yeah, so that's probably the simpler one of the revenges.
Yeah.
And then you have Danglars, who Danglars' scheme is he goes to a telegram, he changes the signal so it looks as if that it basically makes Danglars pull money out when he shouldn't have and gets false information, and that leads to Danglars losing a bunch of money in essentially stocks.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that one is, so each character is, Dantes is trying to take away the thing they value most. With Fernand, he valued his honor, his position, his place in higher society. He scrambled everything so he could have a place of high pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Edmond took from him.
Yep.
And with Danglars, he valued money. The thing he values most in the world. And so what is he going to do? He's going to take his money and not even really steal it. Just
make him make bad decisions.
Yep. And go like, and I love the little conversation he had with him. Like, Yeah, there's three different types of wealth. There's the people who, there's the people that own wealth, and then there's the people that create wealth, and they do something, they produce something for others. That's a second level of wealth. And then the third is the people that speculate. Bankers who, they don't really have wealth. You really only have
basically
2 million.
He says, well, you own his crypto, man.
You own crypto, which, interesting. Interesting.
Is it wrong?
Well, just showing how Danglars' money and his wealth is just very vapid. It's all based on speculation.
Monte Cristo's is
House of
real.
Cards.
He has diamonds.
He's
has
got
jewels.
diamonds. Is the Count of Monte Cristo arguing for us to go back to the gold standard? I think so. Be prepared for my next video essay.
He pretty much is. But also, is he leaning into that just to get Danglars to go, oh, interesting.
Oh, he's just pissing him off. Going, poke the bear.
Getting him to be more reckless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Danglars, he gets him with his money. And Villefort, his motivation. So you have Fernand, who I guess he's just a bad person. They're all bad people in their own different ways. Interesting question to ask. Okay, I'll wait for characters to see who you hated the most, if you had the most vitriol towards the person. But Villefort, what do you think his message was? Or his interesting take on the revenge aspect?
Well, that's the thing where the Count goes probably the most wrong and the most complicated. Villefort, like a lot of the other ones, it's fairly easy. So what does Villefort value the most? It seems to be that Villefort values his reputation. The reason why he threw Dantes in jail was to protect his father's name, who he doesn't even particularly love. His father doesn't have this great connection to him, but he's worried about if his father is found out to be a traitor, then that bad name it'll make him look bad, and it'll harm his reputation and his status. And so so that's what Dantes is trying to do, is to make his family look bad and to bring that to light, to tear down his reputation. And he goes beyond that of, I don't want to just tear down your reputation. I want to take away your entire family, and your entire bloodline needs to be expunged. That's where you start going, is that particularly revenge? That's not really the same. He didn't go after Danglars the same way.
Yeah, that's not justice, it's more revenge.
Yeah,
right?
Danglars, he took his money and he was like, yeah, I'm going to make you penniless, and all the things you value, I've taken that away from you. Because ultimately, did Danglars break any law or do anything wrong? No. Technically, Danglars is actually legally in the right. He was completely right that Edmond Dantes was carrying a letter for treason.
Mm-hmm.
And so he couldn't have known. But so that's kind of simple. He's not going after his family. Other than a little bit of ill reputation of the whole thing of him setting up Danglars' daughter with the Benedetto, then doing that whole thing. But that's also about his money again, of setting up you're gonna get this great dowry, and then haha, rug pull, he's actually just a ne'er-do-well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's those aspects. It's Villefort's that's actually the most twisted actual revenge, and that where he goes off the rails too much.
Yeah, I think a way to summarize it for those three major villains is they tackle three of the different 7 deadly sins, where Caderousse, not Caderousse, well, maybe Caderousse does, and I'll pick up on it in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Fernand is envy.
Yep.
And in Danglars is greed,
mm-hmm.
and in Villefort is pride. And you have these different senses of the deadly sins of what's their reason for villainy. And you have that greed, that envy, that pride.
Caderousse would be sloth.
Caderousse, yeah, correct, sloth. So picking up on those deadly sins of what causes them to do such evil, and then he plays on their greed, their envy, their pride in order to get this cosmic providence and justice,
mm-hmm.
of a way of putting it. And Caderousse,
he's the most pitiable. In maybe pity is the wrong word. Of he's just so pathetic.
Mhm.
Of it's interesting of how great the Count is and how much money, influence, power, all these things for years, setting up these elaborate schemes to take down these families. And what does he do to Caderousse? He gives him money. And he ruins himself. That's it. The fact that everything else was just happenstance. And I love those moments of the Count like realizing his assistant, what's his name?
Ali?
Jacopo? Was it?
Which assistant?
No,
Ali?
Peppino? No. Not Ali.
Ali was his slave, and then you had
who is
I got the character sheet. 1 second.
Shoot.
Do you have I got Baptistin? Jacopo? Or
Jacopo,
Haiti? Which one?
I think it's Bertuccio.
Bertuccio. Okay.
That's
the servant.
Bertuccio. Finding out, so he got him for a specific reason of Villefort, of going like, okay, hey, he has this vendetta against Villefort. You're gonna work great with me. This is gonna be grand. And then him finding out of like, wait, you saw what now at Caderousse's place? Like you were there that night. I gave him the diet, like the ruby or whatever jewel, and him just kind of like, huh, that's interesting to find out. I didn't even have to do anything. And so him finding out along the way, and then it just kept happening. He didn't have to do anything. It's so pathetic and sad what happens to him.
Yes.
But yeah, that's probably the one I hate the most. I had the most emotion, like fun, just going like, ooh, Caderousse. Like, ooh, you have nothing. You have nothing and like no admirable qualities to look down.
That is so fascinating because I think Scott was mentioning this. I got a 2-minute conversation on Monte Cristo when I was in Sprints at one point. And Sprints is just where we joined in our Discord server. We chat in there. Was saying the person you find the most villainous says something about you as a person. Of who do you hate the most? Because what's the quality you hate the most is maybe that sloth. You go, you attempt to, like, in your life, think, just knowing you're going, it's always fighting against, no, stop scrolling, stop doing the stupid, no, stop. Like, sloth, you very much don't like that quality. Obviously, we don't like any of the 7 deadly sins qualities, but of all of them, you attach to that and go, look, you have nothing admirable about you. Right, you're looking at Caderousse, that sloth, and thinking, look at how despicable you are.
There's something despicable and sad about how much he harmed someone else for ultimately nothing. There's at least something, like, it's understandable of that, like, every single character at least had a genuine reason, of like an understandable reason. Even if it's twisted, even if it's wrong, you get it. Danglars, like, he wants money. All right, I understand money. I get it. And, you know, it's a temptation. People could fall into it. And then, you know, God damn it, names hurt my head. I will get this.
Danglars, Villefort.
Fernand.
Yep.
He's in love with Mercedes. Yeah, he does this in a wicked way, like, not good, but out of love, he does this great evil. All these things that make sense.
Out of envy.
Out of envy, false twisting of love, but out of envy, he does it. Lust, too, sure. But that's understandable. Caderousse, just in action, he gets nothing from it. He's poor afterward. He risked nothing to just tell the truth and save Edmond, but he doesn't. It's cowardice. He gains nothing. He loses nothing. It would have been easy for him to tell the truth. Almost inconsequential, and he still doesn't do it. That is pathetic. And yeah, it's the thing I was attached to the most. Yeah, he didn't do the worst. He arguably did the least amount of damage to Edmond. It was the lowest priority of his revenge list.
Yes. This tracks so much with your opinions on things.
Yes.
But
I can acknowledge the logical aspect of he did not do the worst. He's not the priority. He's not the most despicable. He did not do the most despicable thing. But emotionally, I am drawn to
I'm completely in agreement with your take on that. Now, maybe I don't think he's the most despicable, but all of that tracks from that's exactly what Katarus's position was.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? he was an alcoholic. He was just drunk while they were discussing the plans. They thought so little of Katarus that they were planning right in front of him, going, nah, he's not gonna do anything.
Yeah,
Don Clark. I'll just sniff him off the trail. Whatever. They thought that little of the man. Anyways.
They can plan this great scheme, and then ultimately all Don Clark has to do is like, hey, if you tell the truth, who knows? Maybe you'll get caught up in it. And if if he spent a second of thinking, like maybe he doesn't say something immediately, but then once the coup failed, all right, or no, when the coup succeeded, and help,
which name? What are we looking for? What name? Fernand Danglars.
No, brain fart.
Villefort.
No.
Monte Cristo.
The more embarrassing
Lord Austin.
name. The more
Lord Lee. Saint Richard. Edmond. Mercedes.
Emperor of France.
Oh, Napoleon?
Napoleon, thank you.
Oh my God.
God damn it.
You couldn't pull Napoleon out of that noggin?
It was there. It was going through a fine mesh sieve, and it was pulled.
You are going to be a horrible old person.
Yeah, it's not going to be good.
Oh, wow.
But no, once Napoleon has won, all Catarus has to go, hey, wait, it's not treason to say the truth now. I can actually just go up and say, hey, guess what? Your guy was innocently thrown in jail.
Bonapartista. Yeah.
You want to try helping him out? No? Okay. He didn't even try. Yeah, it's pathetic and sad and sloth.
Pathetic.
Lazy. Who did you hate the most? Who was the most detestable for you?
Do you want to finish on messages or go on that a little bit more too? Because I realized I jumped the gun on characters a little bit.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because can I say who's okay? Want me to hold on that before we finish?
Mention it. It goes into thought provokingness of what aspect of the story did draw you?
Mine is honestly Fernand. Interesting because when you ask people, I think he's not typically the top, and there's a specific.
You don't even get much of him.
Oh, no.
All the other characters, you get a lot more page time with them.
It's almost similar to you where, okay, so Katarus, sorry, we're jumping the gun on this, but Katarus being that slot, it's almost exactly as you say, it's pathetic. Villefort, his comes from a place of survival, of self-preservation, and this pride, this ego he has. And when it comes to his motivation, he's a straight up villain. And I guess I'm almost thinking in a way, what would you do if you were in a cage with a lion or something? What's your instinct? And I could see how somebody like Villefort would do something like that. Now, our lawyer Scott, again, who's a lawyer, hates Villefort the most because he's supposed to be this representation of justice and a judge and all. So obviously, very bad guy. But I'm looking at that and going, I could see on my worst day that not that I'm Villefort, but that feeling that you could have, that emotion. I understand. I get that. And then I look at Danglars, and his motivation is looking at, man, we are getting really ahead of ourselves. Okay, but Danglars, we're looking at his motivation, and he wants to be captain of the ship, and he wants position. And you could think that maybe his is envy in a little bit of a way too. So he also has some of that there. And so I think I already said that. Oh no, yeah. But anyways, Danglars, he wants to get up in position. He's like, okay, I want this. Fernand, why his is the worst. Two reasons. One is because he loves somebody that clearly doesn't love him back. So even if Danglars is out of the picture, even if Edmond Dantès is out of the picture, he still is always going to not actually get what he wants. There's nothing that Edmond's position in this puzzle piece that even if Edmond's removed, he gets what his actual marriage was, which was a false love and
he gets Edmond's sloppy seconds.
He's sloppy seconds, and yet it's not even what he
that's
actually
the wrong
wants.
way. That's the wrong way to put it. He will always be he will always be second fiddle. He will never be Mercedes's first choice.
It is just as
And
pathetic
that
and sad.
is
That's
sad. Look, who wants to be someone's second choice?
What
No
kind of
one
man
wants
is that to look and the best he'll ever get is to be with somebody who doesn't want him. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at his best case scenario is that, right?
Or will tolerate him out of grief. Effectively.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I can go more into why he's my least favorite as well, but want to finish with theme.
Sure.
There's a couple of big things in here. It's a big book of obviously the message at the end of all human wisdom is contained in these 2 words.
Read it.
I'll see. Do you remember the?
No.
Wait and hope.
Yeah.
Wait and hope from Abe Faria.
Yeah.
In these 2 words, wait and hope. And that kind of optimistic feeling in the end of the book. I have, you know what I have written in my notes? I have, in my notes, I have the quote, all human wisdom is contained in these 2 words, wait and hope. And then I have after that quote saying, if all human wisdom is there, this would have been a really short book. That's just 1 page. Monte Cristo is that one message. So big takeaway from the book. We're talking about providence and revenge versus justice. There's a lot of religious components to this book, and obviously with providence. And that message of wait and hope is this sense of optimism is when he was in prison for 14 years, what else can you do but wait and hope? When you have a hard day, what can you do other than wait and hope?
Yeah.
Human wisdom. If you're ever in a situation, think those 2 words and you can get through anything, right? Wait and hope. And if it doesn't work out, you'll be dead. So you can't wait and hope anymore. So it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not disprovable. You just keep waiting and hoping.
Yeah. I mean, what's the alternative?
Wait and don't hope? Or
wait and don't hope? Don't wait? Don't hope?
But how do you not wait? You have to
die.
Exactly.
Kill yourself. That's always a possibility.
This was maybe counter to the nihilism movement. Who knows what was happening?
Well, it's setting you up of like this ultimate, like how is Edmond gonna accomplish this? Like he goes through these great trials and ultimately he waits a long time and he hopes a great deal and it can work out for him in the end, or at least he is given the opportunity to.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, that is a good, hopeful message of the idea of like, even the insurmountable odds, like there's always an option. There's always a chance. Goddamn, I'm such a nerd. Brent, like Star Trek, the Captain Kirk's motto of like, never tell me the odds, or just there's always another way, of him being faced with an impossible challenge, him being faced with the
his name's Napoleon, if you're trying to think.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember the actual test. He's given an impossible challenge of like, it's a test he is supposed to fail, to learn failure, and he instead cheats, and he wins the test. And he actually beats it, and Starfleet, actually says like, you cheated. It's like, no, you gave me an impossible task. I found an impossible solution. I will never consider myself like, in any situation, I will never consider it the loss possible. I'll always find a way. And it's just that waiting and hoping of always figuring another way out.
Yes.
When someone gives you 2 options, like, hey, you have option A, option B, I choose C. That's not on the table. I'm going to make it. Yeah, it's great. That's a lot. It's a very similar idea.
To wait and hope and find a solution. Again, what are you going to do in prison for 14 years other than cheat out?
Yeah.
You have to find an impossible way to get out of an impossible situation. You have to cheat to get out of something like that, especially where it's unjust and like it is in his case. So that's one, wait and hope. That's biggest one. But then the bit we talked about earlier with what he does to Maximilian, this quote encapsulates that. He who has experienced the deepest grief may experience the deepest happiness. Now, that is something that, whether it's because of Monte Cristo or not, that this is something that's been in texts for thousands of years, let alone hundreds. But one of the main arguments for God is, one argument of many for God is the case that the deepest amount of suffering can only exist if the deepest amount of joy also exists. If there is true evil, that means there also must be a true good. And the opposites exist. And what is the most perfect good would be God.
Yeah.
If such evil exists. And this quote saying, he who has experienced the deepest grief may experience the deepest happiness, encapsulates part of that message of, if you feel the worst you've felt on your scale of happiness, means you know what it means to feel -10, means you can then feel +10. If you felt -100, you can feel +100. If you feel -1,000, then you can also feel +1,000. It's kind of getting into that part of, if your only ranges of emotions have been somewhat sad, can you truly be extremely happy? It's touching on that.
Human experience is just in comparison to what? It's always your happiness is determined of like the way you think of it is like happier than yesterday. Like if you find yourself being happy, it's generally in thinking to yourself like, I am happier than I was pick a day. And that's how you know. If you're just constantly happy, at a certain point, you don't really acknowledge that you're happy. You just are.
Right.
And so you only experience joy, sadness, as long as you experience the other opposite. And so, yeah, a life well lived is a life with a variety of negative and positive emotions. And the Count goes through many of those.
Yes, he does.
And some often self-inflicted. He does a lot like at a certain point you're like, hey man, 14 years, you just got out of jail, you have massive fortune, what are you gonna do to like, you can live a happy life? It's like, no, I'm going to make it harder for myself. Like, okay, whew.
That's a choice.
That's a choice. You could have you could have done other things to make your life a little happier, but okay.
What do you think about the most important message in this book, which is the quote from Abbe Faria? Do you remember? This is very critical.
The one where he talks. I want to just say, in case like I prove I actually read this book in memory, of him saying, I wish I didn't tell you about the money because I see the gleam in your eyes of how you're going to.
Not that part. That's a good part.
Okay.
That's a good part. It's a line you forgot it.
Okay.
And I'm going to remind you. You're going to be like,
Good.
I remember that line.
Good.
I put it down and said, I'm so curious what you think about this because it might ruin this podcast.
Okay.
He says, basically, with 150 well-chosen books, a man has all knowledge a man needs to know. What do you think about him destroying Tudor Ramble with facts and logic?
I kind of get it. I understand.
Me too.
I completely get it.
If you get 150 well-chosen books, now this is back in 1840s, it's saying that.
Yeah.
So many more books have been produced. But if you read 150 well-chosen books, have you read everything you ever need to read?
Yeah, there's a lot of fluff out there.
Probably.
I mean, how many times have we read a book of like enjoyable experience, wonderful things that we've gained and learned, but ultimately we read a book that accomplished a similar enough goal to it of like, we still already learned this lesson of like how many times you have to learn that lesson to like going, maybe pick a different one. But no, it's the same idea with language of there, all these different languages have, a wide variety of vocabulary. And do you need to learn the entire lexicon to be able to speak and understand a certain language? No. I believe it depends on the language, but I believe like a rule of thumb is if you can memorize and understand the conjugation of the 100 most used words in a language, you will be pretty fine. Like you'll be passable. That's it. You learn 100 words of Spanish and you're fine. And like, you're not going to understand everything, but that's such a small number compared to the amount of words in, the Spanish lexicon.
Think English and look how big the dictionary is.
It's the same thing with books. Mm-hmm. So like 150 well-chosen books, you will probably get, 90% of the way there. There's, millions of books out there. So
yes.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we better start counting the numbers. We have 149 books left.
I think that would be an interesting. Maybe that's our project.
Oh.
A video. What is if we take multiple years, like what is the 150 essential books for every
we have to
Mandalorian?
read outside fantasy and sci-fi a lot.
Yes, we would.
We would have to read a ton outside of fantasy sci-fi, because if we were to say essential fantasy sci-fi of your 150, we'd pick maybe 5.
True.
Maybe. Because if you think about it, if we're talking about essential books, if you only have 150 and you just want to install this in a baby's brain, as if we're in the matrix of what 150 books,
I think it would be a fun project for us to figure it out.
Yeah, it would.
It would be not just us reading these books, like it would be part research of like going out into the internet and finding out the different knowledge of like what would be the books to read, and then reading them and determining it ourselves if this deserves to be on the list.
We need so many nonfiction.
Thing is, if we stay friends for the next couple years,
okay,
I don't know how many Discworld books we have in us.
Got to keep pumping those out.
You got to keep pumping those out. But that would be a fun list. Like, what would be our quintessential list? And that way we know. And by the time we actually have kids of our own, like we have the 150 list of like, I'm going to cram these into this child at some point. They will be a complete person. They'll be better than me. I'm starting them off at a better floor than I started off
and
with.
Your kid goes, it's not worth the 20 grand. It's really not, Dad. I can't keep reading this locked in my fucking room. And he's just banging on the door.
I don't want to read about the banana fish anymore.
So, yeah, it's going to be a great childhood.
Oh, yeah.
So that, I guess we talked about the revenge portion a lot, but you like that it has the substance of, it's not simply just saying revenge good, revenge bad.
It's the difference between revenge and divine justice, not necessarily, mortal justice. And that's more fun than just, revenge bad, don't do it. Like, that's how common of a trope is that in especially different YA shows or novels of just, the character cutting down all the bad guys and ultimately getting to the final one and going, I won't kill you like you killed my entire family. I will not pursue revenge. It's like, what are you doing?
Much deeper than that.
Yeah, and that's interesting. That's why I gave it such a high score. I think it was really great.
I'll up mine. I had more fun talking about it than I did finishing it in my head, just going, I'll up it to like, what did I give it? 3.25? I'll give it like a 3.75. I'll go really good. Yeah, I'll up that. There we go. Boom. All right.
There we go. I'm doing the Lord's work, everyone.
Well, you are the saint today.
Yeah.
You're the chosen one. You are defending the popular book, freaking loser. Okay, so now we have, I think that's it for Top Provokingness. Yeah.
We may jump back with characters and plot. It may pop up.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to move on from that?
Okay.
Characters. What'd you give characters out of 5 stars? There's a freaking lot of them.
Did I not even write it down? I transferred things.
You didn't put your character. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I mean, spectacular. 4.5.
4.5?
Yeah, no, the fact... it's amount plus the amount they felt alive and just the connection I had with so many of them, how deep, real they were, blew me away. Even a lot of the side characters. Like the Countess G, with how little she was in it, but she had such a great personality. I loved every moment with her, and that's very impressive. What did you give it?
2.5 for this one.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I gave it a 4.5.
Okay. All right. We were about to have some words.
No, this is the best part about the book.
Yeah.
Spectacular. If I was a character first reader, I'd probably rate this book overall higher as well. But yeah, spectacular characters and
I remember the
characterization.
day when you said you used to be a character first reader.
I thought I was. Then
thought you were.
Then I read Wheel of Time and said I need a plot. And I read that and said, no, fuck that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a character first reader.
You are.
I guess so.
I think you are. You're a character or a concept, depending. I think
that's why I like. Honestly, it's the things I look forward sci-fi fantasy of like.
You love Hyperion. Look, character plus concept.
Oh yeah,
Boom.
That's why it's top tier.
Lonesome Dove, character plus concept. Well, concept's less, so it's kind of it's really just characters. Yeah.
It's just characters.
Your favorite books have that juice to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, characters thought-provoking as Spain. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, concept. That's what I'm saying. So characters, we both gave it 4.5 stars. Spectacular. Now, what did you think of the character Edmond Dante, number 34, the Count of Monte Cristo, chief clerk of the banking firm Thompson and French, Englishman, Lord Wilmore, Abbe Busoni, Sinbad the Sailor?
I liked Sinbad the Sailor the most.
Of all those characters?
Of all those characters, he was my favorite. Okay.
There's also two different Edmonds. There's Edmond pre-prison.
Yes.
And prison, and then Count of Monte Cristo. That one character has 20 characters. How could you not say the characters are well done? Anyways.
Yeah. No, you're completely right. But the amount of mystery, the allure of the Count of Monte Cristo is so much fun. Of being in his head the entire time he's before and in prison, and then almost directly after he escapes, and then cut to years later, Italy, and we get Sinbad the Sailor. And you know, it's like, that's Edmond. I see it. And you're not supposed to fool anyone, but you ask the question of like, why is he going by Sinbad the Sailor? And
did it make you want to read Arabian Nights, by the way?
It did.
Yeah, because I kind of want to read it now.
The fact that Arabian Nights is the legend, it's important
to an important book.
To Alexander Dumas, and it's like, that seems like it would be on the list of 150 books.
Possibly, yes.
I have an inkling suspicion of on the list of 150 important books to read, Arabian Nights is probably there. At least in the top.
How many of those 150 books do you think came out after he finished Monte Cristo, of after 1846? Because think about how many books would have to be on that list that are pre-1840s.
I think there's a good amount, but I think less than we're thinking. I think there's plenty. I think there's books out there like of the important books to read to have general knowledge, because a lot of this would not just be stories and fantasy or fiction. It would be books on history.
And so books, and the most modern ones are going to be that.
Well, we're going to have a lot of good historical novels that are maybe updated or have a combination of different stories and most up-to-date information. So there's probably a little bit of that.
Yes. No cheating with the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
But yes, so thoughts away.
Edmond, I mean, we talked a little bit about it with the whole central character of him pursuing revenge and how that starts to wane over time, of how much fervor he has. And then he starts, getting a little too high on his own supply and being confronted with the former love of Mercedes and realizing his deep-seated hatred pales in comparison to his love of Mercedes. That's one. And then starts believing that his ego, that he is divine providence. He is close to God himself. He is the Ubermensch, all this stuff. And then realizing with, a dead child at his feet that, no, he is just a man. And by the end of it, and he gets to Danglars, and he's just done. The guy that started it all, and he doesn't even have the energy or hatred anymore. He takes away his money, he completes it, but it's more out of last dregs of gas in the tank. Might as well just complete it at this point. Take away his money. I'm done. Complete it. Then when it comes to it, do you want to show him mercy? And Edmond at the beginning of the story or beginning of the revenge, somewhere in the middle, he would have just killed him or let something else terrible torture happen to him. Keep him in there. Have Luigi Vampa keep him in there until he dies. But no, he's like, you know what? Fine. Mercy. Here's 30. Here's 30,000. Go ahead. Start it again. Now, is that part of his revenge, though, of letting him go into speculation once again to ruin himself? Or is it just Edmond is done?
He seemed done at that point. Edmond, this entire book, or more accurately, the Count of Monte Cristo, the kids would say he aura farmed nowadays because the kids would say that because he gets introduced through the eyes of other characters in such an enigmatic way. That's the word. Where he's seen as a vampire.
Oh, yeah.
Several times of look at this vampire. And it was so cool to hear that historically, just because this was written 50 some odd years more before Dracula, which is cool to read and go, oh, look, this vampire figure pre-Dracula. It was cool to just see what people thought a vampire was before that changed our view of vampires.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a cool little nugget. But yes, he's seen it as a vampire. Every time Monte Cristo comes into the room, he charms people. He's threatening to others, but he woos them. His knowledge, he is Batman in many ways. He is him. He is Aura. So wow, we gotta or we have to hit all age ranges. I'm sorry. I know a lot of older folks are probably listening to this one because it's Monte Cristo. Nobody young reads this, of course. So we have
also, I think our general age demographic is people older than us for our channel.
I think our exact main demographic is 25 to 32.
Okay.
We're right in there.
We're right in there. So
yes,
not too far different.
Yeah, it's people around our age mainly. Yeah. We want it to be for older folks.
We want to be hitting the solid 40-year-old demographic. That's what we're aiming for.
50 and 62, honestly, because the older people are that watch, the more valuable it feels. The more years you have, the more experience, the more you've been through prison and back again.
How much of an ego trip is that of like reading a comment of someone who's like in their 50s and like really love your guys' stuff and like interacting with us and going like, this person is my elder. I should they respect my opinion. They are listening to me. And that's an ego trip right there.
It is.
Man, that's, I don't know. That's something I've read and I've experienced with this YouTube thing.
They have more experience to know, okay, they've interacted with more people generally. And you're going, oh, you like me?
You like me?
Oh, cool.
You think what I have to say about books is valuable enough to listen to?
If you are sub 40 and you comment, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Who do you think you are? You some freaking French dude? Like, who the fuck?
That's right. All people under 40 are basically French.
Yes.
They're basically.
I think of them the same. All right.
God, we're idiots.
Yep. Okay, so that is Edmond Dante. We've talked a lot about him. We talked a lot about the three villains and their representations and their motivations. So we dove into that a bit already too. We haven't talked about a lot of characters.
A character I think is important that we should talk about, and this will be interesting. Probably a more interesting discussion on, especially with how adaptations handle this character.
Okay.
Mercedes.
Of course. We got to talk Mercedes.
In the novel, she is, so the first introduction we get with Edmond trying to find Mercedes after he gets out of prison, looks for her and finds out that she has moved on and she is now married. She married Fernand. Did I say it right? Yes. Mm-hmm. Married Fernand and has moved on. And at this point, it's been, 14-ish years. Or 15.
Longer, because it was 14 years out of prison, then more. Yeah.
Well, no, he gets out of prison, and as soon as he gets the money, he immediately comes his way back to
to Catarus, and he goes to.
He wants to find out first thing, so he doesn't. Because I think at a certain point, if Mercedes was still single, he probably would not have gone on his revenge. He would have stopped and be like, I have returned. I'm home. I can be happy. And then when he finds out that Mercedes has moved on, and then it's like, okay, well, it's been 14, 15 years. Okay. How long? And apparently it was she got married, I think 18 months after he was arrested.
She waited there for maybe 6 months and then a year.
It was relatively short, marriage, I guess, was short, and her with Fernand. So, and then he goes, the fickle woman, and all that. And it's I shouldn't blame the women because, they're such fickle, frail things that, you can never depend upon. And that starts the counts in a different direction, and instead of finding a new love, he gets a slave. So how's that? How he treats women generally? So that is about him. how is this book portraying Mercedes? Is she seen as a sympathetic character? Is she part of the revenge? Is she someone that the Count has some justice to lay upon? Or is she a victim in a similar vein to Edmond? How do you think this book sees her?
I think the book sees her as a paragon, almost, not almost, perfect and virtuous, and a great person. A victim just as much as Edmond Dante is, although she didn't go to prison. She is seen as a victim.
But she does get some type of divine punishment. She doesn't get to go off to the sunset. She doesn't get to be with Edmond. She has this self-flagellation of like, oh, I have betrayed my love. I am going to go to an abbey. Runs away from all her money, gives away everything, and ultimately is like just destitute or trying to be.
Mhm.
And this is almost, and then the Count is like, oh, yes, you deserve that, but I'm going to be merciful. Like, there's some degree of the book is saying she is wrong.
I almost think a worse. I almost think a worse person, Mercedes. Let's say if she didn't feel guilty about that, and if she felt, "Hey, I waited for you," and says what we know. I, as the reader, am convinced she loved him with all her heart, and it's shown very clearly that she waited, did everything she could, thought he was dead. The immediate scene that we get with Mercedes and Fernand, Mercedes is introduced with Fernand, and Fernand hitting on her, asking for a Mercedes without Dante's being there, is saying, "Hey, I like you as a brother. I like you as a friend, but my heart is with Dante. I'm completely his man. That is it. I love Dante. Goodbye." I mean, hi, friend. Oh, we can say friends, but that's it. This never crosses that line. And we're introduced.
Lesson to the ladies: don't let those sneaky fuckers in. If you tell a guy, "Hey, I only want to be friends," and he's like, "I'm in love with you. Just friends," and he's like, "All right, fine, we'll just be friends," it's a lie. It's always a lie. Don't fall for that
Also,
shit.
as soon as you know that person loves you, it breaks what friendship there was.
There is no friendship anymore.
It is now something that's wanted there. There's no longer the same intent behind the friendship. One person wants to be with you for more than just friendship, so it changes the dynamic entirely. That's where you get into a lot of situations. But anyways, the name of the win, that's where you get into that. Don't be Quoth.
Don't be Quoth. Don't be a simp.
Don't be an idiot. Okay, so.
Also, don't be a simp farmer. Don't be a simp. Don't be a simp farmer.
Yes.
Don't farm the simps. I know it's easy. I know it's tempting. But for the good of society, don't farm simps.
Let that boy go.
Let him go.
Let him go.
Do your best. do him and the rest of society a favor and cut him loose.
Don't create don't string him along for 14 years and create all these subplots and build this revenge.
Yeah.
Instead, just cut it off.
Cut it off.
Maybe if Mercedes said at the beginning, instead of "let's just be friends," and said, "No, I don't want to ever talk to you again. Go away. I hate you forever." Maybe he'd go, "Oh, I have no chance." But
so
now,
this book is really
Mercedes' fault.
It's Mercedes. She didn't cut the simp off.
If she fuck it, I take back what I said. She's the villain.
She's the villain.
If you really think about it,
she didn't nip it in the bud.
If she snipped that, bad visual. No, if she just put it to an end.
Yeah. Because how much was Fernand talking about, like, knowing, like, there is this connection. There's a chance. She does value me as a friend, and like, if only Edmond was not in the way.
Mm-hmm. The more you know.
The more you know.
However, okay, but that's anyway, true.
The point is the book does allow some degree of like self-flagellation, and that Mercedes deserves some type of punishment. Not that she shouldn't feel guilty of, like, I can imagine, or not even guilty, but like great sadness of like realizing, oh my God, this person I loved he wasn't dead this entire time. He's been in prison. And like, look at what and I married the person who sent him to prison in the first place. I didn't know. Like, yeah, understandable why she should feel sadness, sorrow, all these things. But the book seems to be saying something more of like, it was wrong of her to move on, and it was wrong of her to marry Fernand.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, well, we can talk about what the book's saying. I think I view Mercedes the same way I view Edmond Dante before going to prison. of Edmond Dante was naive, didn't know this, didn't know the circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
and was thrown in unjustly. Basically, he gave the letter, but his boss told him to do that. He was not conspiring. This was not to his knowledge. He didn't know that there was a jealous person, there was an envious person, there was a greedy person, he did not know there was this plot against him, and he suddenly is in prison, right? He is completely a victim up until that point and after getting out of prison. Then it's extrapolated to, ooh, is it the revenge worth it? Da da da. In the same way, Mercedes also is out of the know about all of this. So Fernand comes to her, says, hey, I love you. She says, I like you as a friend. I'm here for Dante. Dante gets thrown in prison because she thinks it's the Bonapartists, and she thinks it's not Fernand. It's not all these people she knows. She's clueless about the actual plot behind this, and goes with Fernand. She thinks that Dante is dead at this point, and she looks at what's left and goes, well, if my true love is dead, do I just die alone, or do I still want children? And I could see her, if at any point she knew what Fernand did or knew this plot, then she would obviously be guilty. However, how guilty can you be in ignorance is really what the question comes. She's ignorant about this. She obviously can't know the truth of it. The reader here, it's blatantly obvious, but to Mercedes, no. So
well, that's the thing. I'm in complete agreement with you.
Yeah.
I see Mercedes as a victim of this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
She does not deserve any punishment, really. She is a victim the same way Dantes is.
Yeah.
The difference is, like, as I was reading the book, I felt like the book was trying to tell us that Mercedes deserves some degree of punishment, and that's why she ends up in the story the way she does. And Mon doesn't give her a degree of fortune to go off to the sunset. That she gets to, be alone with a meager existence, waiting for her, hoping her son doesn't die in a war. And then Edmond, like her great love, goes, bye, see ya, and I'll never see you again, or maybe never, whatever. But
a lot of people don't like that they don't end up together. That's a common complaint, I think.
I think it's understandable them not ending up together. Like too much time has passed. They're different people at this point, and Mon may still love her in some degree, but he doesn't love her that same way. It's just, it'll be hard to get past of, like, she moved on and married, my enemy and my nemesis. Like, there's just a rift between them that he can't bridge. That's understandable, but yeah, I know in adaptations that has changed frequently.
Oh, we're gonna have to watch one.
I've heard that is probably the most frequent change, is that it's more, rather than just about the revenge, it's about the love story between Mercedes and Edmond, and they often get together at the end.
Whoa.
Apparently.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Sorry, so I don't know which movie we're going to watch for. By the way, I'm throwing this in at the almost 2-hour mark of, like,
yep.
So it's like, it's the deep cut, not the beginning ad. It's a 2-hour in ad of, for our film channel. The first video will be our review of the Count of Monte Cristo movie. I don't know which movie we're going to review for it, but we're going to be shopping around, looking about which one would be the best for us to review.
Yes. See that on Tutor Reel.
Tutor Reel. Yeah. There you go. Little two-parter. So if you want more Count of Monte Cristo content, I don't know if the channel will be up by then. Probably won't, but
we'll make it work.
Yes.
So that Mercedes, I see you're saying is the book saying she needed to repent in some way. Did she need a punishment?
Yes. Is the book saying that, where I disagree? That was the tension that I was having with. I was going, I wonder what the book's trying to tell me versus how I'm seeing it.
Okay. Yeah, I think she just has more of a, maybe it's just because I feel she's so innocent that it's just more of a tragic end. Maybe not that she's, I guess you could say she's punished cosmically or by providence because this is how her life turned out. But she is just as punished as Edmond is. But Edmond was more culpable because he did things toward the end to potentially get him into that situation. But I think it's more of I felt it more of a tragic end for her because I don't think she deserved to be alone and in the situation she was in, and she's victim.
Yeah, it's just, it goes a little bit beyond just cosmic tragedy when, the richest man ever, the Count de Monte Cristo, is there and could help her or could say like, hey, look, you could do something. And he doesn't really even attempt it. He goes like, hey, you can stay at the old house that I purchased for us to live together. And here's like $2,000. Good luck.
Yeah, that's why it comes across as
and it's a little harsh. It's more of
tragic.
He's him giving her the bare minimum rather than what he could do. And so I'm wondering, is that part of the book saying like she deserves that?
That's what I mean. To me, it's more tragic, harsh and tragic, a tragedy. Her ending is more sad of, oh, I see her as more of a victim. What the book is trying to say, I don't know. I could see that, but you don't see it that way either. Or do you think the book is saying that and you disagree?
Yes, I think the book is saying to some degree that Mercedes is at fault for moving on and not being loyal to Dantes.
Got it.
And even if it is to a significantly lesser degree than everyone else, she did betray him, just like Caderousse, just like Fernand, just like Danglars and all them. It's just to the least degree.
Right.
So it's the most sympathetic, but still she did betray him. And that the book, she deserves some type of punishment for that. I think that's what the book is trying to say, that I disagree with.
Got it. Okay, I can see that. I don't disagree. I think I might have been blinded with just how I felt about Mercedes. So I'm reading that then going, oh.
Yeah, it's just how she ended up. Them going,
Yeah, I didn't think about, is the book trying to say she's culprit as well? If that's the case, I didn't read carefully enough into that. But as you're saying it, I think that makes sense. Yeah. I think that makes sense. However, I would either then disagree with that part of it, or I just still feel that her character was always pure. She was always a pure character and always had good intentions. Maybe that's also my my view on more if you make a good person or not. I think one critical part is intentions do matter. Intentions are incredibly important. There's also what's the action you actually do? What do you care about the well-being? So it's your intent. What's your heart trying to do with this? And then what is the action you're doing? And then are you considering others? And obviously there's so much to go into with morality, but Mercedes is clearly a good person and is presented as a good person. So that's just my views of her. But that's an interesting point to make.
Yeah, that was the one where I was maybe most disagreeing with the book, of going like, oh, that's an interesting direction. Maybe that is the age of the book. Could be. I'm not sure. But that was that was an aspect that I saw with that character. Is there another character you'd like to talk about?
We got a lot. We talked about so many of them, so I don't want to bring up the villains again. We talked about Abbe Faria a little bit too.
Sure.
Okay, how about
I'm just
Albert? Did you want to talk more about Albert?
Sure.
And Franz, the kids we get introduced to in Italy.
Franz is okay. The dynamic I found interesting with those characters is most of the characters that the Count interacts with, to some degree, is a plan. Like all the connections he's making is either to gain something or take away something. He's trying to help his friends. He's trying to help someone to screw another over, or it's all about this transaction. It's all this grand scheme. And so that's why he's charming to some and he's terrifying to others. He's always like playing this role. And I find it interesting that Franz, who has no connection at all, not useful to the Count in any way possible, like zero connection, not helpful, not in the way, not an obstacle either, not someone to take out. And so Franz is the first one to be able to see it from the very beginning, how dangerous the Count is. And just like, this guy's a bad dude. Like, he is terrifying.
He's a vampire.
He's a vampire. Like, you need... Albert, you need to be real careful of this guy. He is freaky. Something's off with him. He's got a screw loose. So Franz sees through it, and that's because, the Count just doesn't care. It's like, yeah, I could just kind of be neutral around you. I don't have to put on airs. I don't have to really terrify you either.
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? I found that an interesting dynamic he had with him.
Mm.
But with Albert, I think there's a fun trajectory of, like, of course, the fake friendship, and everything started from a place of revenge of, like, I'm going to integrate myself through you into the family to then tear your family down. Of course, that's where it starts. But I think along the way, there's some degree of respect and admiration for him. There seems to be the heart starts to soften a little bit on Albert. And then, of course, it's still at the end of the day, he's willing to kill Albert for his sense of revenge, with Mercedes adding on top of it. And then a tragic ending of their relationship of, like, mutually respecting each other's position of, like, Albert going, like, I don't have, like, you're not my friend, obviously, but I acknowledge how much my father has wronged you. And I cannot hold, like, this anger toward you. Like, I understand that you are cosmically in the right to do this. But just because I don't have to be angry with you doesn't mean we have to be friends. We don't have to be enemies either. Peaceable. And similar thing with the Count of, like, I feel bad for you, but I would do it again. And so, like, this bitter, not sweet, bitter neutral relationship and how it develops.
That's the word, yeah.
Bitter neutral. And I just find that it was an interesting development of a relationship that I enjoyed.
Yes.
And Albert just being just a complete mama's boy. Like, oh, poor guy. Oh, he's going to have a hard time. Like, oh, Lord. Every time it's like, well, what about this gorgeous, rich, this, like, 10 out of 10 time. She's got tracts of land. She has, gorgeous woman. You're going to marry her. She should be happy, Albert. But she's not my mother.
He does have,
like,
he does have issues. Yes.
Many lines. I'm wondering if that is Alexander Dumas going, like, just trying to emphasize how wonderful Mercedes is,
I think,
and not necessarily, like, Albert is a little bit of a freak. Like, he's
I think the first is the true
it's
one.
supposed to be a bit more wholesome of him, like, going, like, I really truly love my mother.
Yep.
I would like to be with someone in the future that has similar positive, wholesome qualities to my mother.
My mother was nurturing.
My mother was nurturing. Yeah. That's what he's going for.
Yeah, we're making it weird.
We are making it weird.
Okay, for once, it's not the French guy's fault. They are some freaky French people, but Alexander Dumas will give him the pass.
We'll give him the pass, yeah.
So, yeah. Now, a character we didn't talk about yet. Valentine. Didn't talk a lot about.
Didn't talk a lot about
Valentine. Also, the whole Villefort family. Valentine, the mother, and then Grandpa.
Well, they had the most interesting family. Like,
yes.
Danglars, like, whatever.
Yeah.
His family was very forgettable and just, like, sad and pitiful. Like, man, there is no love in that house. They just all either hate. They don't even hate. They're just all somewhat tolerant of each other, both child, father, and mother.
Yep.
But yeah, Villefort has interesting dynamics. Like, I love the
family.
The grandfather was so great. I loved everything with him.
Ask me if I'm being held hostage to do this podcast.
Are you being held hostage? Yes. Yes. The Bill Homewood did a great job with the voice.
Yes,
like,
he did.
I felt the grandfather's voice and just his.
And the blinking once for yes and blinking no. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. But I love his character. One, I loved him in the beginning when he's talking to younger Villefort about the Bonaparte resistance and Bonaparte coming back and all this. He was such an energy.
Yes.
You could see how competent he is, and the fact that he's fallen to such a catatonic state. it's just also wholesome how much he loves his granddaughter and
Mhm.
wants to do how much this man who is paraplegic, he can't speak even. All he has is blinking. That's all he has. And he fights tooth and nail everything he has.
Poisons her intentionally
Poisons her
to
intentionally.
build that tolerance.
Goes out of his way to reveal his greatest secret, to basically disgust her future husband-to-be, to call off the wedding she doesn't want to happen. Everything he does is trying to make his granddaughter happy. And it's just so wholesome. You just love to see it.
Yes.
So I loved him. He was great.
He was. And you have Villefort's relationship with Madame Danglars, and their affair. Or
Oh, yes.
they're canoodling.
They're canoodling. Yes.
And the child that was born out of that,
Benedito.
that whole plot, which we can get to in plot, but that relationship between Villefort and Madame Danglars, thoughts there?
I mean, it's just an added layer to me of like, it was something, it was mainly for plot. I don't know if I was emotionally there, but it just added to the twisted nature of like, hey, this lawman is supposed to be about justice, and what has he done to his, or tried to do to his ill-born son, and hide away this child.
Right.
And did he try and kill him? Did he just hope that he was dead? And all these different qualities. So it just adds to their despicableness. But that's about it.
Yeah. I think the least despicable person besides Mercedes, and we talked her up, but the Morel family. The Morel family.
Oh, yeah, the Morel. Well, they're the allies. They're the good ones.
They're very chill.
That was the one group that, the Count comes back and he's like, okay, I'm gonna try and find my father, Mercedes, and also the Morels of like, oh, hey, these are the people that actually tried to help me. I'm gonna help them in turn, and so he goes out of his way, and it's like, and then after the great line, like him going, all right, God, I have given my grace. All good deeds are done. Now it's time for revenge. I need to know what is the line of how
You probably got close.
What was that?
No way you're just gonna pull up to the random line in a 1,000+ page book.
I probably
There's
could.
no way, and the chapters are Roman numerals as well. There's
it.
no way.
I know this book. Sinbad the Sailor. Nope. I got it.
A timer.
The House of Morel and Son. Nope, that's.
I got a timer. I started it about 15 seconds too late, but we'll see. We'll see how you do.
I'll find it. I'll get there. Go with me. I'm finding it. I'll get it. I'll get it. Yep, got it.
No.
I found it.
Oh, okay. It took you 30 to 40 seconds.
I
in
got
that
it.
range. Okay.
All right. And now, said the unknown, farewell, kindness, humanity, and gratitude. Farewell to all the feelings that expand the heart. I have been heaven's substitute to recompense the good. Now the god of vengeance yields to me his power to punish the wicked. At these words, he gave a signal, and, as if only waiting the signal, the yacht instantly put out to sea.
Ooh.
Ooh. Fun. Fun. That's a fun line.
Yeah.
I liked that. That was a great way to end that section, begin into the era of revenge.
And can you imagine that coming out in the week's newspaper?
Oh.
Now it's time for revenge, and then the entire country of France is going, oh shit, he's going in. And so then the readers are talking about going, "Ooh, what do you think he's going to do
And next chapter, Italy.
And then how disappointed was everybody to go, oh, what are we doing in Italy?
I imagine people 150 years ago had a smidge more patience.
I'm exaggerating.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
They're not us TikTok-addled brains.
I imagine just some people going, man, where's the Red Rising stuff? Oh, wait, that's not out yet. Oh, wait, let me backtrack. Oh, it's not out. Okay. Where's the The Odyssey. The Odyssey is so much more fast paced. Whatever they were saying at the time, who knows? But I'm always curious to know the people reading a Monte Cristo book, or you read a classic. What did those people contemporarily think? What did those people contemporarily think to, oh, this is the example in their genre? Much in the same way, you know how you were mentioning Napoleon, if you can remember his name, before Hitler.
So sad.
But before Hitler, I think a lot of people looked at Napoleon as the big bad, especially of Europe.
Oh, he was.
Which
Yeah.
Napoleon today, you look at, Napoleon is extremely layered. He is one of the most fascinating historical figures, and one of the worst films ever, is the film Napoleon by Ridley Scott. I don't just mean it's not poorly made. It's shot well, sure, but it's
Terrible.
It's such a disgrace to the depth of Napoleon and how interesting he is, because just like Monte Cristo is exploring the themes of revenge versus justice, etc. Napoleon is a thematic figure where you could think about he changed warfare. It's just historically interesting in that aspect, but how he was so charismatic. How did he lead his troops? How did he get all the French people to come back not once but twice? And which is also featured in Monte Cristo. He just storms back through France again, and you see King Louis in the book going, oh, but the Southern French hate him. What's and then all of a sudden he's back, and then Waterloo, and then they send him to another island, and his relationship with his wife that, oh, I'm pulling you.
Ha!
What's her name?
Not as embarrassing. I could barely remember.
Oh, it starts with an E. Starts with an E. God. Napoleon. Wife.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Josephine. It was not an E.
It was not an E.
It's Josephine. Okay, Josephine, yes. But anyways, Napoleon is incredibly interesting. So, also, I need to read more Napoleonic era stuff, because the first section of the book, then that first part, this is my shit. This Napoleon stuff. Anyways, I'm going off track. Any other characters you wanted to talk about? Because we can't cover them all, but we did Maximilian a little bit.
Maximilian there wasn't much to him, in all honesty. That was one of the weirder connections to me. It's seemingly from the book's point of view of like, this is the deepest connection that, this is the person Dantes passes on his fortune to. And so he's the heir of, the Count de Monte Cristo. And I don't see the same connection, like the love that he has there. It seemingly just kind of something that grows in the background.
Yeah.
But I mean, I found it just cringely adorable, his relationship with Valentina. Or Valentine.
Valentine.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's just the moment where he says like, Valentine's saying, I'm sorry, I cannot marry you. I cannot disappoint my father. And he goes, I understand. I will go. Goodbye. And then her going like, knowing that this is the sound of a final goodbye, says, wait, where are you going? What will you do? Well, Valentine, you are my world. And without my world, I am nothing in it. I will go off to die without you. It's
the drama. It's that gravitas.
It was so silly, but it was the stage play, and I was there for it. The prose is written so well. It's absolutely lovely. So I was in. I was in for the stage play. So I was just eating up my little soap opera drama there.
Yes.
It worked this time.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the romance was surprisingly, I was gonna say surprisingly accurate to the time, which is the stupidest shit I could ever say. Because clearly Alexander Dumas would be able to accurately show the society and class of the time.
Sure.
So not surprisingly accurate, and just you could feel the age and a different time of how romance was in this French society as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also the differences that you see between how the French woman act and the Italian woman.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of those differences of going,
how much was Albert just going around and going like, man, these Italian women are just so hard to woo. They're so flirtatious, but you can't get in there. And it's
See?
like French women are just.
That's what we Italians do. That's
I
what we Italians do. What can I say? Like, what else do you want from us? Hey,
I found it funny. I'm just the idea of Alberta's like going, yeah, on the surface they seem like they're always just they're so loose women, but then they're actually loyal to their not their husbands. They're loyal to their lovers.
mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's funny. That's a really funny statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Us Italians are
Italian
loyal.
women. They're loyal to their affair partners.
Yeah.
That's a funny statement. I enjoyed that.
We are loyal people.
Yeah.
And then also now, I guess, was also the implication. But
Nicole is the. Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Hmm.
Is Nicole or I the affair partner?
Oh, certainly Nicole, because you came first. don't let come on, you're my mess today.
Yeah, I am your main squeeze. I understand. Yes.
And then you're the who's he end up with in the end?
Hmm.
Edmond Dante with his
Aide.
Aide. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic there. She seems a little young for that. That's the time. I get it. I just looked past that part. I saw it and went, I'm just going to, in my head, age that up a couple of years and then we're good.
Yeah. How old was she?
I was significantly under the age of 18.
Oh, significantly.
I think believe significantly under.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
I blocked that out.
Oh, yeah. No,
I
that
must
was
have
a
blocked
quick.
that
That
out.
was the one where I was like, no. Let's
Back to French people.
back to the French people. Yeah, no, it's yeah, that's one I blotted out.
You have anything else for characters?
Let's see.
What else you got? Because
There's a lot of side characters that I think were
yeah.
interesting.
Eleganti.
We briefly mentioned Natia, just how adorable he is. Valentine is just your soap opera drama that I love. Benedetto, Major Cavalcante.
I got Luigi Vampa. We talked a little bit
Okay,
about.
that's actually a side one. I liked everything.
Bertuccio.
That was a great aside little arc.
Bertuccio?
With Luigi Vampa.
Vampa. Yeah.
I liked his story so much. If it felt like just a mini Count of Monte Cristo origin story,
Yep.
it was enjoyable to me.
Mhm.
I enjoyed that.
Figuring
guy a
out
lot.
how he became the
Bandit King.
Bandit King,
yeah.
essentially, yes.
That was fun. He was an enjoyable character. He's charming. I don't know, in the similar vein to the Count of he's just really good at a bunch of stuff and it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, there's plenty of others we could maybe go into, but I think we've covered the bigger stuff we really want to talk about.
Yeah, I have nothing else pressing to say unless you do on characters. Is there anything pressing for you?
The last thing to say to kind of a catch-all for everything is all of these characters, even if we didn't talk about them a lot, are very alive. That even the little page time they have, they pop on the page. No character felt unrealistic. No character felt faulty or was just there for the sake of a plot convenience, which many characters in worse hands could have. Benedetto is one of those characters of sort of a plot convenience, but just really well woven into the story of he doesn't feel that way. He's integrated into different aspects of the plot and it just flows as a part of the story. I think very well. Same thing with a bunch of other little side characters. So I enjoyed them all.
That's the most impressive part about the book for me is you can think back to these characters and they're all very distinct, unique. If we're talking about irreplaceable characters, you know who Monte Cristo is, and you also that maybe trick is not a good word to use, but the skill that Alexandre Dumas does here is character relationships is how you can also remember a character's motivations and how important they are in the stage play, because they're also interlinked somewhere, which we can get to into the plot, but they're also the character relationships make the character's uniqueness more of a strength, because you see how is Edmond when he's talking with Albert versus how is Edmond with Mercedes, or how is Villefort with the affair partner versus how is Villefort with when he's in front of Edmund. So you see so many different sides of the character going, okay, this is how they interact with character A, B, C. And it's such a thickums as well that you can do that so often. And these characters are seared into my mind. It's
Well,
hard to think of.
This is just a great lesson of how to write dynamic, interesting characters, is having the characters be slightly different people with others
Mhm.
and being able to see a sometimes drastically different side of them.
Yep.
Is a great being able to see Albert in front of his friend Franz, and then how he treats the Count and how he treats his mother. Like, I think those would be the three main sides of Albert you actually get. Him with his best friend or one of his best friends, him with the Count, who he looks up to. There's this different power dynamic between the two, and then him and his mother.
Mhm.
You get multiple sides of him. That's what makes him feel more real. If you cut out two of them and you only get to see him with the Count, it would just be, oh, he's a suck up. He's just infatuated with the Count and just looks up to him as this, grander than life figure. And that's all he would be. But you add those other elements and he becomes a real person.
And that's why, because Monte Cristo is so dynamic, is he has literally a dozen names, a dozen personalities. You see every side of him.
Yeah.
And you see when he starts to break as well. The portion where with Maximilian, you see him going, "You're with Pfeffer?"
Yeah.
And so you see the cracks form, which is also neat. But yeah.
All right. Moving on.
To plot. What'd you give plot out of 5 stars?
I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think the plot is great.
2.75 below average. This is where I was.
That's just the serialized nature in the middle.
I think it works great as a serialized. I don't know. I'm just judging as the book I read. And that was more for me. It took me 3.5 weeks to read the book, which maybe is somewhat fast for some, probably slow for others. For me, I try to read 4 books a month. This one took basically the whole month. It was like just under 4 weeks to read it. But that's not a flaw of just how long it takes you to read something. And that's besides the point. But yeah, I mentioned earlier more my emotional part of I'm in part 1. And then after the first 200 pages was I guess this is the thing I have to say about the full version here. I bet you if I picked up the unabridged version, if I picked up the abridged version of Monte Cristo and read it, I'd probably say it's a great book, 4 stars. And I'd have the same conversation and think it's great. Same exact conversation we're having. The only reason I'm thinking lower of it is because the amount that's in here, the fact there are abridged versions that could be better, and that people that like Monte Cristo say to read the abridged version, just shows there was a lot to cut here. That as a serialized version, I think the plot works extremely well, but as a book, you kind of see the length in the middle. And yes, the subplots can be interesting. Some I'm more into, some I'm less into, but as a whole, I just saw my passion petering. And again, it's 275 because there's nothing wrong with the plot. There's nothing incorrect about it. There's nothing that disappointed me about it. It's just, I petered. That's it.
I understand. I guess especially by the end of the novel, I was certainly impressed by how he wove a plot together, especially a book this long with as many plot threads as he did. And I don't believe he dropped a single one. All of them ended in a really thoroughly satisfying way, even tiny ones. I was kind of just shocked how many different plot threads he started. There was a point in the middle there of after as soon as he got to France and he's now beginning the stages of his revenge, you go back and think to yourself man, why were we in Italy? What was that whole point? What was the whole point of the Franz and Albert setup? What was with Luigi Vampa? That seems random and not really significant to the story. Okay, we'll keep moving on. And we keep adding on more details of, so now Monte Cristo's assistant had revenge against Villefort and also had this relationship with Benedetto and knew him. All of these things keep adding and adding. I'm going how the hell is he going to wrap this up? This is so many different aspects. And is it going to even be satisfying? But they all piled together where every little plot thread was satisfyingly handled, and not just on their own, but were tied together in one large plot. And it felt at the end like you couldn't cut anything. Of course you could, because the abridged version exists. Obviously you can. But the fact that the ending was so tied together with all the little plot threads, and all those little plot threads mattered, made it, I think, like a really great, I think, spectacular plot. Because I personally wouldn't really cut anything. I liked it. I don't know what you would cut. I imagine there's something.
Yeah, I'm curious to read the abridged to see all this stuff. That let me look up too. How much shorter is abridged Monte Cristo?
I think it's at least 200.
It's roughly half the length. Wow. So the original novel's 1,200 to 1,400. Abridged versions are around 600 pages. Wow. And I guess that's part of it too, is because as much as I'm actually having more fun talking about the book than I did reading it actively, if that makes sense, because it's a classic, there's a lot to talk about, and clearly with the characters too. But the book has so much to talk about, and the plot does weave in a lot, and it does conclude all of them. Again, it doesn't do anything, doesn't drop anything off. It doesn't conflict with itself, and it's internally consistent. It's just more so this could have also been accomplished in the way that I would watch a movie of this. I'm curious when we watch the film. I think I'll enjoy the film more, simply because I think it's going to get depending on the version, it'll get the same themes and characters and emotions in a more compact, serviceable way of just, it does all the things. Obviously, you couldn't have it without Alexander Dumas' material and the story he actually wrote. Yeah. But this is where I could see an adaptation actually doing better for the source material, just because, again, the intent of this wasn't, I should say not intent, just the actual delivery of the book was serialized. And I'm not calling intent behind Alexander Dumas, but certainly the fact that you get paid more money per line is going to be, of course, he's going to make it longer and add subplots. And it was his job you write in the paper, it gets published in paper, you write the next version. And if you have that for a couple years, good, he has a job for a couple years doing this thing. So I just think he was extremely good at coming up with stuff to make it longer so that he could write more and weave it in at the end of, he accomplished that. However, he weaves so much into the point where it was kind of unnecessary to create that many subplots. And I think it was more unnecessary to get across the
same message.
You could do the same book way differently. As in, when we're judging plot, we're saying 5 stars, very few changes, like hardly any changes to the book, and our 1 stars, tons of changes. So I'm saying this because I would change all the middle. I wouldn't change just how effectively it's done. The beginning, fantastic. The end, also, I had no real qualms with the ending of it. That just, I guess my one complaint, back to the emotional part, is
the exact same ending would land better with you if you didn't go through the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Is that kind of the thought of, like, the ending didn't land as well for you because you were petering off in the middle?
Yes, and the most disappointing part, again, to me, was what we talked about earlier of the innocent person that died, that is dying. I think there were so many characters introduced, and there could have been a more impactful moment there in the plot for me to understand, okay, I followed these characters for so long. What devastating thing happens that shifts Edmund a bit? Again, we can go, don't have to rehash that. But that portion in the end, too, I was looking forward to more payoff. There was payoff. I wanted more. So that's really it. It's just the middle portion. I think I also said earlier, the escape from the prison, the reason for him, the plot against him in the first place, all awesome stuff. And as soon as then we went to Italy and we're finding out more about, okay, he's getting to know Albert and France, and then go back and all the plot ensues, which maybe here is a good point where we can talk about, we're talking general of what happens in beginning, middle, and end, but is there a certain plot point, specific plot point, where you were surprised by, because we knew Monte Cristo was a revenge story? Was there anything going in that surprised you about Monte Cristo of, oh, I didn't realize this was the book for you? Just curious on that end.
I think a lot of it is just the heavy focus on every other character. The amount of subplots
that surprised me too.
Surprising to me.
Yep.
I thought it would be far more of a focused story.
Yep.
So that was interesting to me. But yeah, nothing in here was particularly shocking, and I do acknowledge there does seem to be in my own head or my own thoughts like a little bit of hypocrisy of how much I remember when we were talking about Wind and Truth, of a big factor of what I was criticizing the book for was how long it was and how unnecessarily long it was.
Mhm.
And this book is as long, if not
It's
longer.
longer. Let me see. Monte Cristo word count. Let's get the official word count. It's 465,000-ish words. And Wind and Truth is 491,000, so 30,000 off. Close. Well, this would be basically longer than the other Stormlights, I think.
Yeah. But think about it is nearly a Wind and Truth and
longer than other Stormlights.
Longer than other Stormlights.
Yep.
Why? And clearly the fact that you can cut it in half and still make a great novel with the abridged version, clearly there's stuff to cut. Why did this still work for me? Why did I not like it? And a lot of it does have to be the ending of, I did feel it in the middle of like, I wasn't as energized as I was in the beginning and I wasn't as energized at the end, but the ending landed all the points where I'm going, oh wait, all those things in the middle did satisfyingly wrap up together. And so after the whole conclusion, I'm going, man, that was a well done plot. Everything fit together at the end. Hey, that puzzle was a long puzzle piece. It took a while to put together.
Yeah.
But when it was put together in the end, it's a nice picture.
I feel that there's books, which, not spoiling any of these, but Lions of Elrasan, Howling Dark, those are the two that immediately come to mind, where up to the ending, I thought they were good plots. Like, they were great plots. However, Children of Time, that's another one. Yes. Those three books, not spoiling whatsoever, so you don't have to tune off. But those three books, I remember saying, "Oh, the middle could have, or the lead up to it, or something." I had some complaints about the middle, but by the end, it didn't matter at all, because the ending of Children of Time, of Howling Dark, and Lions of Elrasan are all fucking incredible.
Yeah.
All of them. And so it blew my mind so much that all the time you spent is worth it. So that's totally the case here with what you're saying in Monte Cristo, is you see the ending and go, whoa, look at all that payoff I'm getting. Now, maybe it's also the case that the quote-unquote fluff, the superfluous stuff in the middle, is also done with prose and dialogue and entertaining scenes for you, that even if it's longer, maybe some's unnecessary and you could cut it, it's good fluff. Could that also be the case of when you're reading Wind and Truth?
That's a significant.
You look in the middle and you're going, this is fluff, and I'm not enjoying the fluff. Is one.
I was certainly enjoying the fluff a lot more.
Yeah.
The fact that I was as invested as I was in Maximilian and Valentine, which is probably the most separated, most irrelevant subplot. It's not related to anything else in this story. And yet, because especially when it was going on, there's other subplots that was like tangentially related to the revenge. Kind of. Valentine, not at all. It's just the cheesy romance story going on. And I was invested in it.
That's it.
I loved everything with, Nautier.
Napoleon is his name. I'm never forgetting that.
Yeah, it's fine.
How do you forget Napoleon?
He was there. It just couldn't, he couldn't go from here to here. That's
actually, you're stronger than me, because Napoleon's French.
Yeah, you're right. I should forget him. That's because he's French. Or is he the only deservably only Frenchman to really remember?
When you think famous French people, Napoleon's got to be the first person.
Napoleon,
answers.
Alexander Dumas, the original, the creme de la creme, the guy that the Three Musketeers is based on, which I gotta read The Black Count. That's a novel I really want to read here pretty soon.
When I looked up, most famous French people, when you look this up on Google, Coco Chanel was the first that came up.
Huh.
Second was Napoleon Bonaparte.
Okay.
Are
we just clowning on the French now?
Okay, listen, Google is washed. We're going to ChatGPT. List the most famous French people of all time in order from most famous to least famous. Give me a top 10. Okay. Here's a list. This is the most famous of all time. Number 1, Napoleon Bonaparte. ChatGPT
Good.
has it correct.
Good.
Number 2 is also correct, I think. Joan of Arc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Number 3 is, I think, also correct. I know all these people. Louis the 16th or 14th.
Okay, yeah.
XIV is 14th.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the one with Antoinette, I think.
14th,
Right?
yeah.
Yes. Oh, no. This is the absolute monarch who epitomized the divine right of kings, ruled for 72 years, built Versailles. Okay, that King Louis. Got it. King Louis the 14th, like the Sun King.
That's the problem with the numbers one.
Yeah. Get all confused.
13, 14, like you need different name.
Yeah.
Helps. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, then we
Same
have...
thing with popes. The fact that they have the names, it's like Pope. What are we on now?
We're on St.
Whatever.
Richard III.
Nice.
Descartes is number 9. I haven't heard of 10. Brigitte Bardot.
Mm,
Global icon of the 50s and 60s cinema and fashion, sex symbol, later animal rights activist. Interesting. Wow. We have way more famous people in the U.S.
Is Alexander Dumas even on that list?
No, he wasn't. What a shame.
That's
What
a
a
shame.
damn shame.
That's a damn shame.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Terrible.
Unbelievable.
Terrible, Chad.
I don't know how we got
Failed me.
into that, though. We were...
I don't either.
The plot length, the middle portion, us talking about the good fluff.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's mainly what it is the middle and the ending, wanting a more compelling emotional hit at the end. However, they all do tie up. It's well done in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that was most, if we're talking about shocking plot moments, to me, it's everything with Danglars at the end. So I think I'm just leaning into like, I think we're finally gonna get like, this is the final nail in the coffin of the revenge. Like all the hiccups along the way, we're finally gonna get the origin of revenge. Like to some degree, I hated Danglars almost as much as the others. It's like my order of hatred was like Carouse and then Danglars, of like, because I'm thinking, oh, this is the guy who started it all. He was, going after for money, trying to tear down Edmond. Like everyone else, like to some degree has sympathy, but like him, I'm looking, this is the guy who started it all. He's going to get it worse. And the fact at the end, Edmond just kind of lets it go. Like going, all right, I did punish you, but I'm just not going to continue on with it. Like I'm not only going to let you go, here's 30,000. You're just kind of feeling like, what? Really? He just gets to get away with it? And so that was a more shocking plot point, but it was right. It was right by the end.
I'm realizing now, as you said that, maybe another part of my emotional end to this, or looking at the plot, was if I thought Fernand was the most hateable, or we didn't get Fernand's whole section was more, hey, here's the evidence.
Yeah.
Goodbye. And maybe that was why when I'm looking, so there's so many subplots. Which ones did you care the most about, right? Which ones were you hoping for a satisfying conclusion? And the Villefort was certainly the one focused on the most by far.
Well,
and
I think
the Villefort,
Dumas, and I think probably the correct take is that Villefort was the worst.
The objectively, he is the one who ultimately gets him into prison, lies, has the most conceited, prideful intentions.
Because going down the list,
going against justice.
Like Danglars, yeah, he started this whole thing, and by an accident, he was actually correct that Edmond was carrying a letter for treason. Like technically right, but it was Villefort that once he knew he lied and perverted justice and is supposed to be a lawman, is supposed to stand for the law, and perverts it. So yeah, he is technically the worst.
Yep.
And that's why the focus is on him.
He's certainly supposed to be. And that objectively, look at the time that's spent with before his demise.
Also, his family definitely
crazed at the end.
Turns crazy, but he also gets the most. His family gets the most amount of page time and just interesting depth to them. They're probably the most dynamic characters. Where like Madame Danglars, like who cares? Her daughter is like just is, and they're just more of a sad family. Like, man, that's barely even a family at that point. So you don't get much with them. But yeah. What were we getting at?
Just
plot.
talking about how Fernand, the endings, there's so many subplots that
Mhm.
which one are you more invested in? Which one are you looking for a satisfying conclusion? Again, the end of this book having essentially a scared straight for Morel and just being like, hey, Valentine's dead, and getting him to suffer so that he can know true happiness, forcing him an artificial suffering to go through a mini arc of what the Count of Monte Cristo had to do so that he has experienced true pain. That means he could experience true love and these opposite emotions. Does this for Morel at the end. I didn't see that coming. I was going,
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense, but I didn't see that coming. And I think the end of the book,
Very much play like, like
Mm.
that's how a stage play would operate. Not necessarily a movie, not necessarily a book, but that's just kind of how it is visualized in my head.
I see that. Yeah. There's a couple of scenes that you talked about earlier that feel like a stage play
Mhm.
and have that presence. The Valentine, the love, love.
Without you, I will kill myself.
I mean, it's very much a stage play-esque scenario where Edmond Dante says to Mercedes, I will lose the duel, I will die.
Yeah.
I will die for you, I will not survive another day. I will give up my entire life of revenge just for this moment because I have now forsaken Mercedes. It was all for Mercedes.
Now, I actually found it the opposite of it was not he didn't want to die for Mercedes. He wanted to die because he lost his purpose.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It was more of like, I realize I don't have the strength in me to like, without this, what am I? I am nothing without my revenge. If I'm willing to give it up for Mercedes, which I thought I've hardened my heart to this, I have nothing. If I don't have this, I have nothing. And that's where he's like, I might as well die. Not necessarily like I'll kill myself before I harm Mercedes. It's more of like, I now realize that even without Mercedes, I don't have it in me for
But
this
it's
revenge.
because of Mercedes.
She's the start of it, but like, it's not I'm going to kill myself to stop. It's different. It's just ever so slightly different of I'm going to kill myself to protect you, Mercedes, versus I'm going to kill myself because I have nothing further to live for. Like, my purpose in life is now null.
And who took away that purpose?
Yeah,
Mercedes.
Mercedes, but
They're connected.
it's connected.
Yeah.
I just find it
Yeah.
a little different. It's not the Maximilian, like, oh, without you, I will kill myself. It's more, because of you, I have lost my purpose of living. I cannot mentally compute my loss of purpose, and there's no reason for me to continue living. Those are different. Same.
Different. Same, different. But same, but different.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I guess that we talked a lot about the plot, weaving it in beforehand, and is there a particular thing you want to mention in plot other than what we've said so far? Is there a good covering of, as big as the book is, the plot is pretty straightforward with weaves. So there's so many, there's a ton of subplots that you feel that the story's meandering in that middle portion, and there's just a lot going on, but it all is with the objective goal of, is revenge worth it?
The most insignificant, but probably most impactful
What is that?
plot moment for me, and I loved it, was the gardener, the telegram gardener. I loved that scene. I loved that character. I loved everything about it. That was one of my favorite memorable scenes in this entire book, of just like the count just like, just turn your head. Don't just like, look how much $2,000. Think of the guard that you could have for like
I can't wait to see that on a movie. That could be that could be so good on a movie.
He was just so funny of like one, Dante's kind of realized like, oh my God, like they're paying you how much? You live here? Just like what? He's like, what happens if you like make a mistake on one of them? It's like, oh, we have to pay. It's like, you have to pay? You barely make anything at all.
Yeah.
And just him going, man, this is cheap. Like, just there was a moment for him going, man, to manipulate the market is dirt cheap. Like, what? 2,000 francs,
Yep.
and I'm gonna cause Danglars to lose like 500,000. That's cheap. That's real cheap. So yeah, no, I loved that whole scene. That was probably one of my favorite in my top 5 scenes of the book. That's up there.
I actually agree with you. Yeah, that was a great scene.
It was so good.
Scene. It was fun.
Yeah. It is incredibly fun, charming. I think we got to saw a more innocent side to the Count. It was a bit more of an honest moment for him because it's not in front of an ally. It's not. He doesn't have to put up this significant mask.
I guess how you could say what ending portions disappointed in quotes disappointed versus were satisfying. The satisfying ones were the telegram, for example, was satisfying because you see the intellect of Monte Cristo and it being an intelligent plot weave to affect the telegram to then therefore misfortune Danglars. In the same way, one of my favorite scenes was the prison escape of just the intelligence that clearly was thought through of how would you escape and what is a good way to get Danglars, Dante, what is a good way to get the Count of Monte Cristo out of prison.
Yeah.
And the knocking to see who it is and then going into the body bag, all of that makes perfect. So when you see the competence and the intelligence of going through these different subplots. So for example, the one with Fernand, the competence there would be he had somebody as an eyewitness the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So he had an eyewitness and he got the papers. Oh, okay.
Well, how much he followed these people across the world, followed their lives, interviewed as many people, and Aide was not an accident. Like he followed behind to make sure he could gather the evidence and present it at the right time.
Yep.
It would be most impactful.
Yeah, he's pretty vindictive. He's got some spite in him.
He adopts kind of and raises kind of the child, like the child victim of his greatest enemy to bring up as evidence later. Also kind of falls in love with the girl that he raised, and it's like, gross. But we're going to parse that out of the mind. We're going to not think about that. But dang, to raise a daughter, heavy quotation marks there, to raise an adoptive daughter as revenge. That's another level. That's dedication to the craft.
Real dedication. Yeah. Anything else for plot?
No, I thought it was spectacular.
World building. What did you give it out of 5 stars?
4.
Great.
I thought it was great. It put me into the Napoleonic era. I felt like I was there. I think it did a great job.
3.75. Really good.
There you go.
Did a really good job. Yeah. Napoleonic era telegram stuff was cool. Even looking at it got me into a little bit of a rabbit hole because in 1815 or 16, before we get the time jump, they mentioned telegrams as well. And I was going, I didn't know we had telegrams that early in history. And then I looked it up and there were these. The technology behind the original telegram was so interesting. I think there was the French telegram. France developed this telegram specifically that is obviously now out of use, that got overtaken by the electric telegram or whatever it was that made things faster. But it was fascinating to see that was a way that France would get messages through in the Napoleonic times as an advantage over neighboring countries. Whole rabbit hole. But very cool. Obviously, he's going to represent the time while he lived it. Yep. And it was very cool to see the Italian versus the French woman and a little bit of the cultural differences. And anything else stand out to you?
No, it's just we got to see so many different aspects of our own world. It did feel magical in that sense. We spent a lion's share of time in France, but we did get to spend some great time in Rome and outside parts of Rome into Italy, the countryside of Italy. We get to the islands around. There were so many different cities and areas we got to explore in this book, and it felt like, a little time machine back in time to another time of our own world. I felt magically transported.
Hell yeah.
And so, I mean, if that's not world building, there you go.
Yes.
So great job.
Yeah. Really good job.
Thanks. Good job, Alexander. Great job.
Prose.
I mean, 5?
Floored you?
It floored me.
Nice.
The fact that even stuff that I probably traditionally would not have been as interested in, the prose was so good that I was invigorated. That scenes that should have made me cringe because the dialogue was handled so well and the descriptions just kind of was flying off the page, I was invested. What did you give it?
4.25.
Really great.
Really great. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think there's a reason why this book will last the test of time. Obviously, and I think a big part of it is it's incredibly well written. That he can take a long, meandering story and you still are invested along the way. I don't see how that's not due to the prose.
Especially maybe the translation we read too is also good too.
Sure. Yeah.
We're judging a translation, so it's all we can do. We can't read the original French, but I assume it's also written well in the original French.
Something I would like to ask commenters, if you're one of those terrible, terrible Frenchmen, go past the French jokes and tell us down below in the comments, like, if you've read the original translation, like the original written version of the Count de Monte Cristo in French, and do you feel like there was a difference in how we described it? If you've read the English version as well, that's even more valuable perspective. But I would be very interested to hear if if anything was particularly lost in translation.
Right.
I would be very interested to know.
Only if you're over 40.
Yes. If you're under 40, your opinion doesn't matter. On top of you also being French, it's like that's a double whammy right there. Under 40 and French.
Oh.
Oof.
Wow.
Just opinion, not just discarded, but like actively rejected. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to silence them specifically. But screw book burning. People okay, I can't say that. Put them on the stake.
Let's do a little bit more the Joan of Arc. Let's
bring back Robespierre. No wonder the French were guillotine happy. You look around and it's just French people under 40. I'd want guillotines everywhere too. Every corner. Get that shit out there. Wow. They're a very revolting population. I shouldn't be saying this because there's going to be a revolution against us now.
Yeah, but that's what the French do. They're always revolting on something.
Don't give up.
And then
Don't surrender.
They're revolting for some reason, and then the person in line sucks just as much, if not more. Yeah. They don't know how to revolt the Americans.
I'm just remembering, isn't Coop French?
Maybe.
Coop is.
Is he?
Well, no, ethnically. He's not from France.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be friends with him if he was actually from France.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. He barely counts. He's American. He's an American Frenchman.
Americanized, yeah.
He's Americanized. It's good enough.
Here's some quotes that I loved in the prose here. One is, I am not proud, but I am happy. And happiness blinds, I think, more than pride.
Such a hopeful line there. And honestly, you can kind of just open a random page. I gave one of my favorite lines there in the beginning of I am the bastion of vengeance. I am God's avatar. And I love all that. But
what do you got?
I like having the fun of actually going to a random page. So tell me when to stop.
Okay, keep going, and stop. Stop.
All right, so wherever my finger stopped, I'll go back to the actual sentence, wherever that sentence starts. The curtain rose, as usual, to an almost empty house, it being one of the absurdities of Parisian fashion, never to appear at the opera until after the commencement of the performances, so that the first act is generally played without the slightest attention being paid to it, that part of the audience already assembled being too much occupied in the observing the fresh arrivals, and noting each backs of elegantes as they take possession of their boxes to have eyes or ears for the business of the stage, while noise of the opening and shutting doors, with the mingled buzz of many conversations, effectually prevents even those few who would listen to the orchestra being able to do so. Jesus Christ, it's one sentence. I was going along. That was all one sentence.
Yeah, I'm lowering mine 2.5. That was way too winded.
That was a long ass sentence. I liked it, but damn, it's a long. That entire paragraph's a sentence.
Yeah, I'm lowering mine.
Jesus Christ. There's a lot of commas in there.
4 stars. It went down. It went down.
It went down.
It
I
went
ruined
down.
it
You
for
picked, you picked the most long-winded sentence possible. Yeah, it's going down. There we go. Okay. There we are. Okay, now my turn. My turn.
Your turn?
Okay, here we go. All right, first give me let me riffle through. Tell me when to stop.
Now.
Okay, I'm going to go down this page. Then here, I'll go down each page. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Left or right page?
Right.
This was the scene which presented itself to my view when I quitted my father after that last kiss. End sentence. My mother and I traversed a gloomy passage leading to the cavern. Salim was still at his post and smiled sadly on us as we entered. We fetched our cushions from the other end of the cavern and sat down by Salim. In great dangers, the devoted ones cling to each other, and, young as I was, I quite understood that some imminent danger was hanging over our heads.
Not long-winded in normal sentence.
Normal. Okay.
A good...
Better.
Yeah, better.
I picked out another line that was very beautiful, and here it is. Misfortune is needed to bring light to the treasures of the human intellect. Compression is needed to explode gunpowder. Captivity has brought my mental faculties to a focus, and you are well aware that from the collision of clouds, electricity is produced. From electricity, lightning. From lightning, illumination. Oh, so good.
I'm also looking. Let's see how long it takes for me to actually find this scene I'm looking at.
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be a lot harder.
Oh, do I have to time this again? Let me time this.
Try. Hold on a second.
This
This is not good for a YouTube video. I'm sorry.
isn't a
don't want to
YouTube video.
actually.
This is a podcast, so it's
Jesus.
nearing 3 hours.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't want to actually do that to people. Just sit here for like 5 minutes in silence.
But we just recorded Darker Shade of Magic. We can't have a Darker Shade of Magic review be an hour and a half and Monte Cristo not be longer than that.
That is true. That would be embarrassing.
That would be quite embarrassing. But
I
this
will
is
say, yeah. This was longer than I expected. I thought we were going to be a little shorter.
what?
Yeah, I know.
With Monte Cristo? I mean, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And the satisfying thing about this podcast, the thing I get out of it and we get out of it, is now that we've talked about it, I've said everything I want to say. It's here permanently on the internet. I could just go, what did I think? Click on this and go, that's what I thought.
I was doing that the other day with Wind and Truth. If I was going back
what
to our
did you
video,
think?
going, what was my initial thought on that? I just wanted to like refresh myself on something. And I was listening back going, yes, good point. I still think that same thing.
Good point, Rich. Good.
Good point, Rich. Good point, past Rich. Move on.
I don't even think the same I did when we filmed that video, because we filmed the video and I disliked the book. I hate the book now.
Ooh.
Well, it's just it grows because the more you think about it, just the more it goes, oh, I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks. I will say with Monte Cristo, I had more fun talking about it than I did reading it. Significantly better than Wind and Truth. Significantly. But I had more fun talking about it than the read itself. And for that alone,
overall rating has gone up at all?
I'll put it up to 3.25. Because if I can at least talk about the book,
you can at
in
least
an
say the book
above-neutral
is above average.
I will say that.
The Count of Monte Cristo is slightly above average.
No. The Count of Monte Cristo unabridged is above average. The Count of Monte Cristo abridged, I suspect is a great book. That's mostly my take on this. Actually, curious what you already know who shouldn't be commenting on here, but the people that should be commenting, let us know what you thought of Monte Cristo. Let us know what you thought about this long-winded review that we just did. Let us know if you like when we talk about very long books like this, or you just want us to talk about our little short essays that are 4 pages, and the ROI on them is so much better for us, because 4 pages for a whole video, look at that.
That just took like a month to read, and we get one video out of it. Yeah.
We joke, but we would have read it.
No,
anyways.
I love it. This is the fun part.
Yep.
This is what we live for. The essays tide us over until we can have the time to go through a tome like this.
Yes. Well, that's Monte Cristo. We should be having a movie channel to reel out where we're going to have a movie reaction to one of the Monte Cristo films. We'll see what we think.
Yeah.
Rich?
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.